Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan. Hello, baby. KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
From our fan studios secured by DFWsecurity.com, it's time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
It is time for the Get Right here on 105.3 The Fan. My name is Alec Medford, joined by Reginald Atatula.
What up?
And Ross Lebinski is holding things down for you. The Tolo, the Turn It On, Leave It On listener. We appreciate you so very much for joining us here on DFW Sports Station, your home of Dallas Cowboys football and the World Series champion Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. The truckwreck.com text line is 877-881-1053 to get involved in the conversation, 877-881-1053, or you can check us out on Twitch and YouTube, twitch.tv/DallasFanCam, or search 105.3 The Fan on the YouTube. We got a lot to get to tonight, as we do have the Dallas Mavericks in action down the street at the AAC against the LA Clippers, down 10 right now late in the first quarter. Not looking too great for a beat-up Mavs team. We have plenty to get to with that Mavs team coming up at 9:20. We'll talk about the rest of this game as it continues to go on, and plus a weird update on a promising star for the Dallas Mavericks that we'll get into coming up in the next hour. We got Kyle Yeomans at DallasCowboys.com coming up on the other side as well. Who was that? Kyle Yeomans, DallasCowboys.com.
I'm gonna let you call him that when he answers the phone.
What am I supposed to call him?
Like I said, I'm gonna let you call him that. We'll figure that out when it happens. I'm letting you sit through this one. You're gonna have to sit for about 20 minutes and figure out how that one goes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a great start.
That's the energy we're coming with tonight.
Yeah. Okay. So, what, future father of triplets? I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, that's the whole reason. I want to leave you in this murky these murky waters right now.
I don't like the start to this.
That's right.
I really don't like the start to this, Reggie. Thanks for the warm welcome back, but we are going to start off the conversation with those Dallas Cowboys, as John Machota put out a piece for The Athletic earlier today talking about the Cowboys' run defense that obviously sucked against the Buffalo Bills, and the Cowboys expect a much better showing versus the Dolphins after not bringing their, quote, secret sauce last week to the table. And what do we mean by that? Well,
I also have a great question. That's my same question. Like, what is the secret sauce in this instance then? Because, I mean, Jonathan Hankins did not play in this game, and Jonathan Hankins matters to this team's run-stopping ability, but I don't know that I would expect him to be described as the secret sauce, per se.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't describe him as that. I don't think he was the sole purpose. And I kept asking people when you were out last week, we had different Cowboys guests on, and I kept asking, like, how do you feel about this run defense going up against a better offense? They're not exactly the best running offense, but a better, more talented offense without one of your best run defenders. And got a lot of great feedback, and then it didn't really show up on the field. And what is that secret sauce? Well, according to defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, the secret sauce is their tackling and their ball hawking, saying, quote, our tackling wasn't up to the standard we've set. That is our secret sauce, our tackling and our ball hawking skills. We just didn't have it. That has nothing to do with home or away, turf versus grass, open air or dome, east or west, night or day, Saturn or Mars. You have got to get those things down.
He went astrological on us.
That's a great quote.
I appreciate that. That's interesting, because one of the things about this game, for me, particularly the run stopping, or the lack thereof, the run stopping ability for the Cowboys, I didn't really think of tackling as being just like the reason why they were unable to stop the run. Now, obviously, look, man, the game at its most basic is about blocking and tackling. So in that way, if you are not doing that, like, you are not tackling. But I guess if you point to the instances where you've got James Cook, who is AFC Player of the Week because of his inspired 170-something yard in performance. There's instances where you have him in the clutches of players in white, and he is still trucking along, obviously aided by the fact that the refs had a little bit later of a whistle than you kind of tend to see. And so maybe if that's the case, but it felt like more than just that portion of it, boys were getting blown off the ball. Like the blocking to the second level was something that seemed to happen consistently for the Bills. So, I mean, look, I'm not here to purport that I know more about football than Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator of these Dallas Cowboys, but it doesn't feel like it's a complete enough answer, right? It feels a little too simplistic. And look, maybe it is a simple answer. Maybe Occam's razor applies here. But looking at this game, as I think a lot of us had, it doesn't feel like the answer was simply, oh, they just weren't tackling as well.
The Bills rushed for a season-high 266 yards. Second highest on that list, the Denver Broncos allowed 192 in Week 10. So it was, for this season's standards, pretty bad across the NFL. And you bring up a good point there. I don't really know if that is the complete answer, but I feel like in these situations, the answer is as complex or as simple as you want it to be.
Okay.
Even from the coach's perspective, even from Dan Quinn's perspective, because when I watched the game, I just saw a very uninterested team. I just saw a very just unfocused team. And that's not something you can measure. That's just something you get from watching. And what I saw was a guy like Micah Parsons, who just anytime it's a play not involving the quarterback, doesn't seem like he's fully invested in the gang tackling. Doesn't seem like he's fully there. I'm not saying that he doesn't care about doing his job. It just seems like on those plays that get past his level, it seems like he might check out a little bit. Seems like the edges might check out a little bit on some of those plays.
Well, that's an interesting accusation, and I don't use that. Well, look, I guess, all right, that's an interesting thing to hurl Michael Parsons' direction, but there have been times where Michael Parsons, we've seen that type of characteristic pop up in his personality. It's one of those things that we talked about in kind of a good way almost when we were in training camp, right?
Yeah.
105 through the fan, always in Oxnard for Cowboys training camp. And the guys that went told us that, there was times where he just didn't seem all that interested in the drills sometimes because he wanted to get to, the actual meat of the thing. However, like, the minutia matters. And, helping out, going with 11 matters, right? Gang tackling matters, particularly in a game like this where you apparently weren't having doing a great job bringing a player down with individuals or small sections. It needed to be everybody taking good angle to the football and, doing this as a group. And it felt like they did not do that well. So that's an interesting portion of it. And honestly, this is the type of a game that challenges your intestinal or your intestinal fortitude in a way, right? Like, it challenges how much you want it. And this is where we get to like the nebulous things that I don't like getting into, because like, how am I supposed to quantify that? How am I supposed to like evaluate that? However, the idea of, what we're doing, we know what we're doing, we are going to run it straight down your throat. And the thing about it is, can you do a single damn thing about it, really starts to be about what is your willpower. And so it's interesting that you brought up that you felt you were watching a team that did not have the will to continue doing this.
And look, it's one thing to lose like a close game. Let's say like in the fourth quarter, it kind of opens up and everybody's gassed and maybe the weather plays in, like the elements have some sort of factor into this. You got dominated the whole game.
Yeah.
And you've seen this before. This isn't new. Where else did you see this? Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
When you played them
in a slightly
the desert.
different way, though, right?
A little bit different, yes.
That felt like a more kind of spread out, and because now the math is changing because the quarterback is running. And obviously, Josh Allen is running, but that wasn't really what it was. This was lining it up. This was a lot of big sets, a lot of two tight end sets, various things. Even when they had two running backs in, your other running back is kind of in as an H-back. And blocking, right? This was kind of, we are lining up, we are mushing, doing rugby scrums, getting up the field. Whereas that Cardinals thing was kind of like spread out and just kind of seeing how diligent you were in getting your run fits and all those things. It was kind of a different style of failure of run stopping. So I do want to be clear about those differences.
Yeah, they did end up totaling 222 yards total rushing, did the Cardinals in that beatdown of the Cowboys. And their third worst effort on the season in terms of run defense was against the San Francisco 49ers, where they gave up $170. So you're starting to see a trend. Whenever the Cowboys don't have a sense of urgency to defend the run, or if they're just not successful in a given outing against the run, they're resulting in losses. And they're not resulting in close losses. They're resulting in pretty embarrassing losses. So when you think about all that, you think about trying to bounce back and everything. Well, I present you the Miami Dolphins and the Detroit Lions. Who are they? They both rank among the top 5 rushing teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
And in case you were wondering, we kind of mentioned it with Jonathan Hankins, his status. He might not be back for either of those games with his high ankle sprain. We don't really know. There's no clear timetable on that, but he might not be back for either of those games.
Right.
You talk about Mozzie Smith, who was the first-round pick out of Michigan that a lot of people have set on fire here throughout the season, and they picked him specifically to bolster that run defense.
Yep.
He's had the underwhelming season thus far. He started in place of Hankins this past Sunday, season-high 32 snaps. He did get a sack, his first of the year, 2 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. So you're going to have to start seeing some more there from a Mozzie Smith. And now, it's kind of a baptism by fire. You don't have time to develop. You don't have time to sit and wait. He's got to go out there and play. And maybe the reps help, because one thing that...
Oh, yeah, you only get better playing football by playing football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was my knock, was people were attacking this man early on. And I really loved the pick when they made the pick back in April. But one thing I knew going into this was, man, he's got to play. And there's not a lot of room for him to play day one. And they're not giving him many chances when everybody's healthy. Now that he's got the time, because one thing that, if you watch Mozzie Smith and you just kind of circle him on tape, one thing you can say almost every play, damn, he is laid off the ball. Yeah. Every single time. And what is that a result of? In my mind, not playing. He's got to go out there and learn.
You could say that, and I think that's very kind to Mr. Mozzie Smith, but I think also when you talk about these things, and this is one of the reasons why, for me personally, getting super deep into the draft lead up is not my bag, even though we have people who are incredible at it here at 105 through the Fan. Obviously, namely Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus, Bobby Belt gets involved in all these things. Zach Wolchuk gets into some of the film as well. But for me, one of the things about it is, like, especially if you're a fan, I don't get it as much because, look, man, when it comes to a fan of a team, ultimately, whoever your team drafts, whether it was the person that you thought they should have or not, you're going to have some level of investment in wanting them to be good. And so you're going to then give them the benefits of the doubt. And I think for the most part, what people are going to want is just signs of hope, signs of development. And I think that's really the big thing that is frustrating for folks with Mozzie Smith, is that you talk about him being slow off the ball. He was slow off the ball in camp. He was slow off the ball in the preseason. And so the idea is, you want, even if he's not going to be perfect, and there's going to be people that complain in general, right? Like, that's going to happen, particularly with a fan base that is as large as that of the Dallas Cowboys. But at least if there are signs of progress, you can go, hey, look, there's a sign of progress. The things that the coaching staff, both Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn, has said about Mozzie Smith in this game are things that we heard from the start. Like, all right, he's square, not getting moved per se. That was the whole reason you drafted him. Big, strong guy, sure, but like, where's the progress? Where's the development? Even if he's not perfect, where's that stuff? And I think that's the stuff that's really, really frustrating about Mozzie Smith, because they were talking about him as, hey, a dude who's stout, who then can maybe add a pass rush to his game. And it's like, all right, let's get better at what you do to begin with. And I think those are things that are really frustrating, particularly because he's not just playing for development purposes right now. He's playing because you need him to produce. And I think that gets a little frustrating.
Dan Quinn in his presser this week saying that he thought Mozzie Smith played square and strong inside.
And even then, there were still times where he got washed. Like,
yes.
there was times in this game where you got washed all the way around. And I think that the interesting part, and maybe the part that gives me a little bit of solace when it coming into this game in particular against the Miami Dolphins, this is more of a speed proposition. And so the matchup or the mismatch that seemed to be created in this game against the Bills was that they seemed to power. They seemed to come up and bully you. And I'm not certain that's exactly the way that the Miami Dolphins, run attack is going to try and get at you. They're going to try and get you on the edges and run with their speed. And so you might be matched a little bit better, considering you're playing with all the, playing a little bit smaller, playing with all these safeties on the field in places of like the linebackers and such. And so maybe that is also some level of solace as well, even if you don't have the likes of like Jonathan Hankins back in this game, is the idea that this is a different taste, a different flavor of run stopping that needs to be done.
Hopefully, the Cowboys have a track record of correcting things pretty quickly and bouncing back, because
have not lost any games. Have not lost 2 in a row.
Yeah, since Thanksgiving of 2021.
Yeah.
That's the last time they lost 2 in a row. But for the second consecutive week, Cowboys are a slight underdog on the road.
Can I bring this part up? Because I know that you're leading us into that part of it, but on the truckwreck.com text line, where you can always text in 877-881-1053, the 972 says they were shocked that the Cowboys didn't drop Micah to linebacker. And it feels like that's been a lot of conversation recently, especially when we talk about the size or the lack thereof of the linebacking core. How do you hear that, like that thought of Micah should play linebacker? Because for me, especially being someone that thought like moving him primarily to defensive end, I wasn't certain on it. I feel like I've entirely flipped. Like he's a defensive end. He's an edge now.
Yeah, he's definitely an edge now. I think they kind of found a home for him. We were really enamored with the idea of him being this versatile Swiss Army knife when he first got him in his rookie season, and it worked. It definitely worked. There was no failure there to me, but now I think you've just gotten a little too comfortable with where you're at. I think that you were able to find a home for him, but I do hear the argument at the same time, because the outside runs is really what kind of killed them in that Buffalo Bills game, was they were attacking the edges. If they can get Micah Parsons in a position to move laterally, I see what you're saying there. Like, I fully understand the argument, but I don't think you go and start playing the game of Jenga and trying to take blocks away and build something else somewhere different where it exactly hasn't been totally broken yet. I feel like that's a next season kind of adjustment, if anything, or maybe even a postseason adjustment. If you're really going to go all in on that, I don't think I want to commit to that yet. I really don't. But I understand the argument, because the athleticism of a Micah Parsons at that second level could definitely help. And then you've seen people.
There's that athleticism, but there's the mentality of the game. And we've seen him maybe not be the best with his run fits when he has played linebacker. Now, he hasn't played a lot of linebacker, particularly this year. And honestly, in the last few years, when he is, like, I've seen some hesitancy. I've seen where you can kind of see the gears turning from at linebacker. And then you're dealing with a whole nother problem where you have one of your best pass rushers, one of your best edge rushers, one of your best edge players playing out of position and then not playing there at an elite level. And so, I've actually gotten to the point where I don't think that that's a good idea. Now, I understand why people want to talk about that because of the tools and talents that he has, but I feel like when he plays at linebacker, he's not nearly as good of a linebacker as you want him to be, especially compared to how good he is on the edge.
So there you have it, a little bit of conversation surrounding this Cowboys run defense, as they, at least in that department, will have a gauntlet to run through these next two games with the Miami Dolphins this Sunday, and then the Detroit Lions coming up next after that. So it's going to be an interesting stretch and an interesting test for this Cowboys run defense. But coming up next, we stick with that Dallas Cowboys conversation here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan, as we welcome in Kyle Yeomans, DallasCowboys.com. We'll do it next year on The Fan.
We have you covered, Stars fans, with exclusive content from two-time Stanley Cup champion.
original cans wherever you buy beer. Keep it twisted.
Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly.
Hey, Tolos, RJ Choppy here for the best Ford dealership on the east side of the Metroplex. In Terrell, it's Platinum Ford. Owner Stephen Gilchrist, GM Adam Vinci. They're both Tolos. Taking care of the Tolos each and every day when it comes to the purchase of your brand new Ford truck or SUV. Adam's got everything from Super Duties on the ground to full-size Broncos, Raptor F-150s, the all-new Ford Lightning. All you need to do is get over to Terrell to see him right between I-20 and Highway 80. You can start the process online at PlatinumFord.com and drive a little further to save a lot more at Platinum Ford.
And it's back now here to the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan. The upcoming segment is brought to you by Frankel & Frankel. Life is unpredictable. Accidents happen. Frankel & Frankel are the go-to attorneys for car and truck wrecks in DFW. If you or a loved one has been in an accident, contact Frankel & Frankel for a free consultation at truckwreck.com or call 214 or 817-333-3333.
Back here on the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan, Alec Medford and Reginald Atatula with you until 11 o'clock tonight down at the AAC. The Mavs playing some ugly basketball against the Clippers, 49-30 in favor of the Clippers right now in the second quarter. We will keep you up to date on that game as it progresses throughout the night. But right now, we will go to the Boomer Jacks Bar and Grill hotline where we will welcome in from DallasCowboys.com. He's Kyle Yeomans joining us here on the Get Right.
Now, before we go any further, what's up, Kyle? First of all, how you doing this evening?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Going pretty good. Just for everyone's edification, because I told Alec I would let him pronounce your name how he was pronouncing it. What is the appropriate pronunciation of your name? As I'm sure you have to do frequently.
Yeah, every once in a while. Honestly, the guys at the Fan get it, and I mean, I could have heard a breakup there, but it's Yeomans. So basically, you take the U out of it. There's no U. And so Yeomans, I mean, there's U when you spell it, but whenever you say it, it's Yeomans. And so whenever you roll it together, Yeomans.
Okay. Now, Medford, do you feel like that's how you were saying it earlier?
I just say it fast. I thought I've always had that.
Very good.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were adding the L sound in there, but you know what? My ears could just be wrong. It happens.
I've said it a few times now.
We would need to replay it, so I don't know. I don't know if that's even possible. You get the recording, just make it a drop, and we'll go from there. You can ask Sean and RJ too in the morning because I know they've had it as a drop for a little while too.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones that Peyton sprinkles in. He just did it yesterday during the crosstalk with KNC. It's the dumbest thing they have going right now. It's the best thing ever, but.
I love it. I think it's great.
It is great. And Kyle, what was not great this past Sunday was the Cowboys' run defense. And Dan Quinn said earlier that their secret sauce was missing, and what that was their ball hawking and their tackling. Do you think the solution or the fix there is as simple as being better at tackling or ball hawking, or is there some sort of like deeper level explanation to what went wrong?
It may be a little bit of both. And I feel like that might be a bit of a cop-out answer, possibly. But I think the tackling was bad. And if you go back and you watch the All-22, I mean, you didn't even need to really watch the All-22. You could see that pretty significantly on Sunday. They weren't good at finishing tackles. And they have been at times this year. There have been other games that they haven't necessarily finished like they normally do, Arizona being the first one that comes to mind. Of course, San Francisco, and they were both losses as well. But there have been times this year where they've been up and they've been down in terms of the tackling thing. So that makes me feel like it's a deeper problem than really what we've seen. I mean, the Cowboys against top three rushing offenses in terms of rushing yards per game, in terms of the top seven, rather, they're 0-3. So top seven rushing attacks in the NFL, they're 0-3 against those teams. And those teams are San Francisco, Buffalo, and Arizona. They're all in the top seven. Sitting there at eighth is Philadelphia, who, of course, was one of your four losses as well. So all four of your losses have been top eight rushing attacks. Nobody else has beaten this Dallas Cowboys team this year. That makes me think this is a problem. And they've got a chance to take a step forward and take a step in the right direction this week if they slow down Miami. Miami is currently the number 4 rushing attack in the NFL. And then Detroit is number 2. So you have a chance to buck that trend at this point and turn things around. But until you really do that, I think it is a deeper problem. Maybe it's the interior defensive line. Maybe it's decision-making at the second level at the linebacker position, inexperience at the linebacker position, or maybe you need some extra help from your safeties. But it certainly isn't something that I think is a quick fix. Tackling would go a long way, but I definitely think it's something else on their mind that they're trying to get off their mind as they go into this matchup with the Dolphins.
Kyle, keeping in line with talking about how to fix this run defense, I know that you mentioned many things that go into it. One of the things you didn't talk about was size. It felt like this particular matchup with the Bills, they big boyed you. They weight roomed this Cowboys team. And one of the places where it's very evident that this Cowboys team is a little bit smaller is in the linebacker room because of the injuries that you've suffered to Leighton Vander Esch, Damone Overshown. If you had Marquise Bell step in pretty well, I might add, but, at a smaller size. And so obviously the Miami Dolphins don't pose that particular challenge. However, now that's the book out, right? And I wonder if, teams are going to try and get after that. People have suggested the idea of maybe Micah Parsons going back to linebacker to help address some of that. What is your response to that assertion that Micah Parsons could help this by playing linebacker, like true inside linebacker?
Yeah, I don't love that. And I know it's been a talking point on Twitter. But if you're taking him out of the pass rush equation to step back and play linebacker, then you're taking away what he does best and what teams try and game plan against. And they have to game plan for Micah Parsons. He's double teamed more than any player in the NFL as an edge rusher, and there's a reason for that. And if they're spending their resources trying to stop Micah Parsons, that's where you get a relentless pass rush. That's where you have guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Osa Odigizua that have an impact as well. I think you need more from the guys that I mentioned a minute ago as defensive tackle and linebacker. I think if you have better games from Damone Clark and from Mozzie Smith, that goes a long way. And not having Jonathan Hankins there is big. He is your physicality. He is your beef in the middle of that defensive line. And the biggest player, you talked about the size discrepancy against Buffalo. The biggest player that Dallas had, at least on their roster, on their listed 53-man roster, was Mozzie Smith at 337 pounds when they weighed him at the combine. He's not playing at 337 pounds. He's more closer to 300 right now. He's lost a significant amount of weight, and because of that, I think there's ways that he's been affected. He's had to learn new things as a rookie, and it hasn't turned into production yet. And I'm not giving up on Mozzie yet. It would take a lot for me to give up on Mozzie. I still think throughout his career he can be a productive interior defensive lineman. But from what we've seen here in 2023, it's not an immediate fix throwing 58 in there and saying, get after it, rookie, have fun. You can't necessarily solve it like that. You're going to have to find scheme possibilities, and you're going to have better play from your linebackers, which I think defensive tackle play helps those linebackers out, but you need them to be better decision makers and be more on top of those decisions earlier in the play if you're even going to have a remote level of success stopping the run.
Kyle, you mentioned earlier, Twitter talking points, and one that came up yesterday was Justin Houston getting released by the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. Just throwing it out there since everybody sees a veteran, get waived late in the season. It happens to be at a position that you got beat up in. Would you personally have any interest? Because for me, I don't think he moves the same way he used to 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. I'd personally be out. What would you think?
Yeah, I think you would. I wouldn't be against kicking the tires and at least seeing what he has. You've done that a couple times already. You go and get Rashad Evans. You brought in Shaq Leonard to see what he had, and ultimately it wasn't enough to sign him. Maybe you, since it is at a position of need, maybe you do your homework. Maybe you at least look at what he could bring. But I think I'm with you. Just based off of the limited amount that I've seen him both last year and this year, because he hasn't played a whole lot this year due to injury, at least recently. I think I'm with you. I don't think he moves the same way. I said the same thing about Shaq Leonard, and honestly, if I had to put the two together, I think Shaq probably was in better game shape. So maybe it's something that you look into, but I think from an organizational standpoint, they would have to be impressed to a certain level in order for them to make a move and possibly take a look at him deeper and bring him in for a signing.
We're talking to Kyle Yeomans, DallasCowboys.com right here on 105.3 The Fan. And Kyle, obviously the defense was the first thing that jumped off the screen against the Bills, but the offense didn't help them out in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of this, or some of this rather, was because, Dak Prescott was not at the same level that he had been for over a month playing quarterback. And we've seen this offense really turn the corner, at least we had after the bye week, and a lot of credit was given to Dak, clearly, but a lot of it was also given to Mike McCarthy, the play caller, and the ways in which this offense switched up. How much of the positive change for this offense that we saw can be attributed to just Dak Prescott playing like the best quarterback in the league? Because when he wasn't doing that, it feels like you lost almost all of that progression.
Yeah, it wasn't a good game for Dak, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it was the same caliber game that he had played since the bye week. But a lot of the success that he's had recently has been because the offensive line in front of him has gotten better and better and has protected for him. And they didn't protect very well against Buffalo. Buffalo had pressure on Dak significantly. He was running. He was trying to force some plays out of the pocket, and sometimes that leads to success, and that's part of how he has been successful. I think back to the Seattle game and the way that he played in his mobile abilities in that game. It allowed them to have big plays downfield. That didn't happen. Buffalo just beat you from a defensive perspective, and there wasn't a whole lot Dak could do. He tried to fit it in a couple ways. I thought the play calling maybe took a step back and it went conservative when Zach Martin wasn't in the fold, and maybe that is how big of an impact Zach Martin has. But if you're going to completely blame the drop-off in the Buffalo game on Dak Prescott, I don't think you can do that, nor can you completely praise him for everything that's gone right on the offensive side. That's a team unit that has worked well together. It's the offensive line allowing time for Dak to do exactly what Mike McCarthy has called. It's those three. It's that big triangle, and you've got weapons outside. We knew that in training camp. We knew CeeDee Lamb was going to have a good year. You knew Brandon Cooks would have an impact. Jake Ferguson has certainly been a nice surprise and a step up, but he's really filling the role that Dalton Schultz had in years prior, but he's doing it maybe at a quicker route than what Dalton Schultz did. So there's ways that this offense has clicked, but I don't think it clicks without one of those three units not necessarily working as well as they have. And on Sunday, I think we saw that. I think it was the offensive line that probably struggled more than anything. And because of that, it affected Dak Prescott and in turn affected the play calling for Mike McCarthy. You have to have all three of those things working in succession to really live up to the expectation that offense had set going into it.
Two of your starting offensive linemen pop up on the injury report today. Tyron Smith with a back injury, and then Zach Martin with the thigh injury he suffered in that loss to the Bills. Any concerns with those two guys going into Sunday?
Certainly. Yeah. It kind of goes back to what I just said. If Zach Martin is out, and I think TJ Bass did a nice job, and he's an undrafted free agent rookie. Let's not think he's a first-round pick that's finally getting his opportunity. He's come in and done a really nice job, and I don't want to knock TJ Bass for what he did on Sunday against the Bills, but he isn't Zach Martin. That's the other part of it. He may be doing the best that he can, but he's still not 70. He's still not an all-pro player. You can say the same thing about Tyron Smith, who probably, if he's not available and he's unavailable to go, which I haven't heard to that extent. He did not practice today. I'm sure we'll get more clarification on that tomorrow. But if he can't go, then it's probably Chuma Edoga out at left tackle, and then you've got TJ Bass at right guard, and that has a recipe similar to what we saw against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 3. So I don't love it. Having those two guys out of the fold would be significant, and they've both played exceptionally well throughout the year, and not having them in the fold would certainly affect things.
Kyle, before we let you go, I know obviously all over the Dallas Cowboys, but also in the Metroplex, you do a good amount of high school football coverage and keeping up with those boys. Obviously, last weekend you had a lot of UIL high school state championship action, and it seems like so very many of the state champions are from the North Texas area generally. Yeah. Is there anything to that, or is that just a happy coincidence for the North Texas area?
Yeah, man, it goes back to Texas high school football in general. Texas high school football is the best high school football in the country, and I will say that forever. I mean, there's nothing like it. And I feel like it's pretty well known across the country now that the Lone Star State does it right. But out of the high school football in Texas, the best high school football is in Dallas-Fort Worth. And they set the tone last year. Last year was kind of the prequel to what was going to happen this time around whenever they had the top three divisions all locked up with Duncanville, DeSoto, and South Oak Cliff. Like those three winning it last year pretty much set the tone. This year it was really the lower levels. You had Gunner making a run. You had Anna winning a state championship. Malakoff for the first time in program history. Duncanville, DeSoto did what they did, and unfortunately South Oak Cliff falls 3 points short. But, man, what a team and what a run that was again to possibly three-peat for Dallas ISD. It really has been an influx of talent, but also an investment made in the community of Dallas-Fort Worth and what they've done for Texas high school football. It's gone a long way, and there's been a lot of great partners in the area like Whataburger and the Cowboys that have invested in it themselves. And so really cool to watch. It's always one of my favorite weekends of the year. I wasn't able to make it out to AT&T Stadium. Of course, I've been around to a lot of the high school playoff games in the area through the lead into it. Wasn't able to make it to the actual state championships for the first time in maybe 7 years. And so unfortunate with that, but certainly something I'll continue keeping my eye on in the future, and Dallas-Fort Worth is going to continue to dominate.
Kyle, we appreciate the time and the great work you do here in the Metroplex, covering pretty much every sport there is nowadays. We appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Y'all have fun.
Yes, sir.
There he goes, Kyle Yeomans joining us here on DFW Sports Station and your
No,
home
817. Sorry.
The Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
There you go. No, 817. We will never forget. Alito also won state championship as well. There's so many state champions from the general North Texas area that it's easy to, not give everybody their love, and we don't want to do that. So, yes, shout out to Alito as well.
There you go. And coming up next here on The Get Right, we're going to take a trip around the NFL where the Dolphins are beat up. A former Cowboy gets suspended for the rest of the season and more coming up next on The Get Right.
Coming up on the next KNC Masterpiece, diving into the Dolphins, plus Fact or Fiction.
Early refund advance offered to eligible clients. Application required. Finance charge applies. Loans by Republic Bank. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
If you want to buy a brand new car, if you need to buy a brand new car, the one-stop shop for you is Platinum Chevrolet in Terrell. That's why in the last 3 years, my family has bought not one, not two, not three, but 4 cars from Platinum Chevrolet.
You walk in, pound your fist on the table, and demand to see GM Justin Rudd. Clear upfront pricing. The price you see online, that's the price you're going to pay. Shop online and let them deliver your new Chevrolet. Visit PlatinumChevyTexas.com and drive a little further to save a lot more. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Boomer Esiason is on the Fan. Check out Kickoff, getting you ready for every game. Sunday mornings at 7 on the Fan. Presented nationally by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos, brought to you by those who drink. And Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. It's Boomer on 105.3 The Fan.
And it's back now time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan. The upcoming segment is brought to you by Classic Chevrolet. Classic Chevrolet is leading the way to finish the year #1 in America. They're racing hard with year-end savings on over 400 Silverados. Shop them all at ClassicChevrolet.com. This is Texas. This is Classic Chevrolet. Find new roads, relax, and enjoy the difference.
About to take a trip around the NFL here on the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan. Alec Medford and Reginald Atatula with you, as we are watching some Dallas Mavericks basketball here in the studio as well. I believe we have hit halftime.
We have hit halftime. Score 67-56 in favor of the Clippers. Now, if you've been rocking with us, you know that's tightened up a little bit. Previously, Luka Doncic only had 2 points from the free throw line. I think at one point he was 0 for 5 on the game. Since then, he's kind of turned that around, 7 of 17 right now. 21 points at the half. Started getting a little busy, and that's why the score, or the lead, or the deficit for your Mavs, rather, is down to 9. But yeah, 67-56, 11, if my math is better. But yes, 11 points for your Mavs to overcome in the second half. We'll keep you up to date with what's happening at the AAC as we go along.
Math is hard. Let's take a trip around the NFL here on the Get Right, as I'm going to touch on this real quick because you guys did talk about it yesterday. Damontae Kazee, former Cowboy, current Pittsburgh Steeler, did get suspended for his hit on Michael Pittman Jr. in the game between the Steelers and the Indianapolis Colts. Got suspended the rest of the regular season, to which he appealed. That hearing was held today by hearing officer James Thrash. That's a great name. Jointly appointed by the NFL and NFLPA. He has upheld the suspension of Damontae Kazee for the remainder of the regular season, but he also ruled that Kazee would be eligible to return to the active roster for the playoffs should the club qualify. Coming from
James Thrash.
That's coming from Michael Signora of NFL Football Info.
I just got stuck when you said James Thrash. I was like, he played. I remember him playing wide receiver.
That's a great name.
That's
a great jersey name, Thrash.
It's great. It really, especially in a time where they wouldn't let you just put whatever you wanted on your. No, I mean obviously not. You can't put whatever you want. But they were very very regimented about what you put on your back of your jersey. But if your name is Thrash, I imagine that's exactly what you want on the back of your jersey.
Can we get a defensive tackle named Thrash? That would be an incredible pairing right there.
Funny enough, when I was in high school, we had an offensive lineman whose last name was Thrasher. And I feel bad for Thrasher because I only remember his last name was Thrasher. I can't remember his first name. I think it might have been Michael, if I remember correctly. Shout out to Thrasher.
Man, sometimes the last name curse is absolutely real because mine isn't anything like cool or crazy or anything, but it's different enough to where people just call me Medford.
Yeah, well, there can be many Alex. There's not a lot of Medford, so you Medford.
Yeah, so I literally had coaches that would forget my first name.
That's right.
So like when they actually had to do stuff like paperwork and whatnot, they'd be like,
your name's Derek, right? Derek Medford. Yeah.
That would be an atrocity. But yeah,
wow. Taking shots at all Derek's out there.
No,
if your name is Derek, text in 877-881-1053.
I do not look like a Derek. I do not fit the mold. I think Alec is fine for me. You know, I was supposed to be Christopher, but my dad overruled that.
What was his beef with the name Christopher?
Because there was already like 3 Christophers in the family, so he was like, "Can we do something new?"
I respect it.
Yeah, that's where we got.
I respect a man who wants an even distribution of names. Yeah,
that's such a weird beef to have. Like,
yeah, he's like, nah, that's too many of those.
Perfectly balanced.
Too many of those models out here.
As all things should be.
All right, Thanos, keep it
yes, I mean, he's in the AM on the FM intro for a reason. I am him. I teased that the Dolphins are really beat up. Well, this comes from Cameron Wolf of the NFL Network.
Good follow.
The Dolphins have a lot of injuries ahead of Sunday's game, and granted, it's still Wednesday. But not spotted at practice today for Miami. the entirety of the offensive line.
Oh, they just didn't show up?
Tyreek Hill, Xavier Howard, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Javon Holland, and Deshaun Elliott.
That's a lot of people not being at practice. Now, of course, people can not be at practice for various reasons, but I mean, we know that Tyreek is nursing an injury and is supposed to play next week. But yeah, that's going to be something to watch as this week continues to progress. Is how many of those guys remain either complete not participants in practice or move to limited participants. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of interest for Cowboys fans, because I know sometimes, and I was thinking about this, we do a lot of this thinking about teams in the abstract, and it's going to be good to know exactly who's showing up when the Cowboys play the Dolphins in Miami.
I just love it's just like my favorite penalty call where you just hear the entire offensive line. I've never seen that for a practice report.
False start for the whole offensive line.
Yeah, false start, entire offensive line. Practice report, did not practice, entire offensive line. That's kind of ridiculous. It does seem like Mostert might just be one of those veteran rest days. And then Javon Holland, both of his knees are injured, the safety, and then Deshaun Elliott is in the final stages of returning from concussion protocol. He is expected to be good to go this Sunday against the Cowboys, but not totally confirmed, as concussion protocol is kind of wishy-washy. You could take a 1 step forward and 3 steps back any given day. Also with the Miami Dolphins, an interesting note, they hosted a former friend of theirs for a veteran free agent visit. Ndamukong Suh visited the Dolphins today, who are in need of some defensive line help after a plethora of injuries sustained throughout the year. They're just looking for some depth going into this playoff push, and that's a guy that as soon as this James Cook dude kind of cooked your team in the Dallas Cowboys, a lot of people started pointing fingers at how can we externally help this, and a lot of people are just saying, hey, Ndamukong Suh's on his couch. Well, the Dolphins kind of said the same thing and brought him in for a visit.
Yeah, he's been out there, and I think that this was kind of an idea for him. He's definitely at that time in his career where he probably doesn't want to play a whole bunch, but the opportunity to come in, maybe play meaningful snaps could be interesting to him. Yeah, that's interesting. I imagine he's a really good player when he gets suited up. It's just how long does it take for him to get into the swing of things, playing shape, and all those things. Going to the truckwreck.com text line. Again, that number 877-881-1053 from the 940. They say it's normal that the line doesn't practice on a Wednesday. Jackson will be back like Xavier Howard. So that's what we're getting from the text line. We appreciate you as someone who seems to be a little bit more in touch to how the Dolphins kick it.
Must be Eric Chiafalo. Going elsewhere around the NFL, the Houston Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud is not yet back at practice for Houston. It's a bad sign for his availability this week as he is in the concussion protocol.
Yeah.
And looks more and more likely like he's not going to go, which could spell more trouble for the Texans this week.
Go with Case Keenum, veteran guy, kind of knows what he's doing and was able to at least drive them down, give them a field goal to overthrow the Tennessee Titans. Who do they have this week? Because, I mean, it really does depend on who they are playing as to how that ultimately looks. Oh, they're playing the Cleveland Browns. That could be a problem.
Oh, yeah, that's a real problem.
Yeah.
Because Joe Flacco is out here deciding to conduct game-winning drives with Amari Cooper and stuff. So, that's a thing happening in 2023 going into 2024. Feels very weird to say the least. But for C.J. Stroud, not exactly good, not exactly great. And for Trevor Lawrence, same situation.
Yeah.
As he is still in the concussion protocol. English is great tonight as well. So a couple of bigger AFC quarterbacks dealing with some concussions. Things aren't looking great for them. And it sucks because the AFC is always, this time of the year, I really enjoy watching their playoff race more so than the NFC, because the NFC, it feels like this time of the year, we kind of have things figured out in terms of the top dogs at least, and even the intermediate levels, those mid-tier seeds. The AFC, it's like, okay, after 1 and 2, it gets really interesting. So I just like those guys to be healthy. I just want everybody to have fun.
Yeah, that would be helpful, especially with the ways that we've gotten some kind of mid-football of late. So it'd be great if everybody could be maximum healthy and at least bring this football back around to where it's more fun to watch. Something that's always been fun to watch for me personally is watching Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, God.
Constantly look for the attention of an NFL team to maybe hire him away. Now, this in this instance, it's the opposite way, as Jordan Schultz is the one kind of reporting this. Bleacher Report NFL insider Jordan Schultz said that the Chargers have interest in Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, and apparently it's unclear if the feeling is mutual, as Harbaugh, is obviously getting ready to coach the Wolverines in their college football playoff appearance, third consecutive, mind you. But the way that John Harbaugh has kicked it, he's been out there really looking for an NFL job the last few off seasons.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, he obviously had the suspension levied by the Big Ten for him when it came to the situations. Today, the NCAA announced their allegations, I guess, for Michigan. So there's some things that could come down next season for the Michigan head coach, and maybe he looks up and goes, they're interested in over there. There's a quarterback over there. You can take hold of a program in sunny Southern California and go to the green pastures of the NFL where you don't have to recruit, get paid very well. Go do that. I could see this happening.
It's an intriguing situation out there in LA. The only thing is, it's a very talented roster. Last I checked, I think they're like $45 million over the cap next season, so they are going to have to make some decisions with some of those veteran guys. Obviously, that's not going to make or break the team. We know that the salary cap can be manipulated in some really ridiculous ways nowadays, but still, like you said, you got the quarterback, you got the future right there. You can figure out the rest later if you're Jim Harbaugh and let, some guy above you, whoever their next GM is, make that decision for him. And last thing here around the NFL, because, of course, Aaron Rodgers will be activated by the New York Jets, even though he is not going to play this year. He is going to be activated for the sole purpose that he can continue practicing with the team because, I guess, and to make room for Aaron Rodgers on the 53-man roster, the Jets have to waive someone. So they waived their fullback, Nick Bawden. And
poor Nick.
Yeah, dude just lost his roster spot for a dude that's not even going to play the rest of the season.
But, I mean, look, if you're planning, Aaron Rodgers wants to play next year, and you already pretty much gave the franchise over to him, so you're going to probably lean into the idea of him being your starting quarterback next year. Yeah, let him come back, practice, get back into the flow of things, better develop his relationships with all those things, or with all the players around your roster. It makes sense. It really does look funny in the light when you consider the ways that they gave all of so many decisions over to Aaron Rodgers. More power to them.
That's your trip around the NFL here on the Get Right. And coming up next, the best NFL players at 101 different skills. A really fun piece put out by ESPN earlier. We will dive in to some of the specifics next on the Get Right.
We have you covered, Stars fans, with exclusive content from two-time. Fan Studios, secured by DFWSecurity.com. It's time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
Hour number 2 of the Get Right here on 105.3 The Fan. My name is Alec Medford, joined by Reginald Adetua.
Yes, sir.
Ross Lebensky holding things down for you here tonight on 105.3 The Fan, your home of Dallas Cowboys football and the World Series champion Texas Rangers. 105.3 The Fan. Appreciate you so very much for joining us here on the Get Right until 11 o'clock tonight. We got a lot to get to still, as the Mavs are still in action against the LA Clippers coming out of halftime. It is 69-64 in favor of the LA Clippers early on in the third quarter. We will keep you up to date on that game. Coming up on the other side, we will get more in-depth into that game, as well as an unclear timetable for a rising star for the Dallas Mavericks. We will talk about how much that hurts the team coming up here, in about 18 minutes or so, and round out the rest of the hour with sharing time as always. But Matt Bowen of ESPN put out a really fun piece that Reggie sent my way, and it is called 101 Different Skills of NFL Players and Who is the Best at Each One.
And this goes all the way across, like, various different position, all the position groups that you can think of. Every position group is kind of broken down into the various skill sets of that position and which player that plays that position that has the best of those in the NFL. So there's various different ways that we could go about this, Medford. And do we want to go simply certain positions, or do we want to kind of look around, bounce around and see which ones the Cowboys show up as having the best of these skills at? Like, how do you want to approach this?
I feel like bouncing around could be fun. It's going to be a lot harder to keep track of, but that could be fun to look at all the different position groups and whatnot.
All right.
If you want to go that route, we can go that route.
All right, let's do that. Hit the music, my boy.
Let's start with some.
How about this? All right, let's. I'm just going to bounce around to the various Cowboys, and
let's do it.
There is a Cowboy at quarterback. I mean, you're not going to be surprised which one it is. That does.
Let's go Trey.
Have one. This is not Trey Lance. That does have one of the quarterback skill sets, and there's quite a few quarterback skill sets. Dak Prescott is represented here. The skill set that he is the best in the league at is best decision maker.
Ooh.
So the blurb reads: one season after tying for the league lead in interceptions, 15. Prescott has 7 through 14 games. Also, total QBR 72.7 this season, which is second best in the league. And he's being smart with the ball, especially in critical game moments. Would you agree, disagree? How you feel about that one?
I feel fine with that, honestly. And it feels great to say because, it was addressed there in that write-up. The whole discourse going into the season was, can he stop turning the ball over? Well, he hasn't been doing that very often this season. And the QBR stands for itself. You mentioned at 72.7 this season, second best in the league. It feels great because I talked with Blake, I want to say a weekend or two ago, about, whenever you would go pull up a box score and say you didn't watch the game and you see Dak Prescott throws 38 pass attempts, 40 pass attempts, 42. You think you lose that game. Now I see that and I'm saying, we probably scored a lot of touchdowns. For the most part, because a lot of the time, what's a product of losing football games or being down in the second half is you're going to start throwing the ball a lot. So it felt like a lot of the time when you see Dak Prescott throwing that many passes, you're not in a good situation. Now they're just trusting him. And it's great to see because he's making those good decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, when the best decision maker sometimes, and I know that the interceptions of last season were brought up. So sometimes we think about that as like protecting the football, but also a lot of this is just the offense has been placed in his hands. And around the league, the smart football people that I definitely pay attention to have always viewed Dak Prescott as a very good before the snap, decision maker. Like looking at what's happening and reading defenses. What we've seen this season is he's been really good as well post snap, seeing what's happening and making the decisions on where to go with the football as well. And so I think that is all of that factors into why he's played at such a high level, because it's obviously, he has some mobility, but you're never going to call him like the best runner of the football. The thing that stood out over the time of him playing that incredible MVP level quarterback was just making the right decisions at the right times with all of that pressure heaped upon him, because you're not leaning on the run game, right? It is just Dak Prescott here we're giving you the ball, do stuff, and for a good long stretch of the season, he's done incredible with that.
He absolutely has.
All right, so the next Cowboy that comes up here, running back Tony Pollard. If you had to guess, have you already looked?
No.
Okay. If you had to guess what running back skill he is the best in the league at, what would you guess?
Best in the league. Man, I would think just the book on him is, the elusiveness and everything. But one thing that I think probably isn't talked enough about is how good he's been protecting the quarterback.
All right, you definitely looked at this.
I didn't look. I skipped down to the tight ends. I wanted to see where our boy Jake Ferguson popped up.
Best pass protection back is where Tony Pollard comes up, which is amazing to think about because not more than a season ago, it was discussed about how Ezekiel Elliott had such great pass protection and why it was imperative for him to play over Tony Pollard because Tony Pollard, and rightfully so, like this criticism was there, Tony Pollard was not great at protecting the quarterback. So it's amazing that, you come through this season and he's been very good with the physicality, picking up blitzes and those things. It really is a testament to Tony Pollard and his growth as a running back, and especially once he's gotten this lead back role, that he's been able to pass protect very well and give Dak Prescott the time necessary for him to make those decisions.
They sure do have him as the best pass protecting back. I'm glad that he's getting that recognition because, man, going into the season, I was so nervous about the pass protection out of the running back position because, you had Tony Pollard who last year in his time splitting carries with Ezekiel Elliott. We didn't see many great things in that department. And then how do you address the running back position? You go and get a guy that is probably one of the smallest dudes in the NFL. Nothing against Deuce Vaughn. It's just you don't draft him thinking, oh, he's going to protect our quarterback. That's not what you draft him for. That's not the job you ask him to do. Rico Dowdle has been hurt a lot in his NFL career. We don't really know if that's his thing. We hadn't seen too much. We knew that he was an aggressive runner. Could he be that physical as a pass protector? We didn't really know. Tony Pollard has kind of eliminated the fact that we need to ask those questions. That's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah, kudos to the organization and the coaching staff for seeing that he was going to be able to do that and trusting him to do that. Moving along, another Cowboy that shows up as one of the best at one of these different skills in the NFL. This one's a wide receiver. First of all, if you had to choose a wide receiver who you think was the best at something in the league, which one would you say it is?
Man, Jalen Tolbert has been... No, I'm just
all
kidding.
right.
CeeDee Lamb, obviously.
CeeDee Lamb is the receiver who shows up here. Now, what skill, if you could think of one, do you think CeeDee Lamb is the best player in the NFL at?
That's tough because I feel like his game has evolved so much since he got drafted. And
what would you say his best skill is? So to make this a little bit easier on you.
To me, I'd say what he does after the catch. I think that's still that was what I thought coming out of college. I still think that's his best attribute. If I had to go another one, I'd say route running. I think it's got to be one of those two. Like after the catch, I don't know how you would phrase that. But
the way that they phrased it on this list, most elusive pass catcher, and like you said,
that felt easy enough.
This is the thing. Sad. This is the thing that he came into the league with. This is the thing that you'll remember seeing him when he was when he was playing for Oklahoma, and getting the ball to him in space and letting him create in space and being elusive in that way. Still, he is regarded by ESPN as the best in the league at this. Slippery after the catch, he can weave his way through traffic. Still playing at top speed. And so, yeah, you definitely see that from CeeDee Lamb, and you've seen the way that they've tried to integrate that more and more as the season has progressed as well. So, yeah, incredible seeing CeeDee Lamb. It felt like you had to see him in that way, but wide receiver is such a talent-rich position that you almost wonder if, is CeeDee Lamb going to be represented in this? And he is because of that elusiveness that he shows on the field.
Yeah, there's a lot of different categories that you can break down a wide receiver into, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of guys that kind of do the same thing in essence, and he's just evolved into such a complete guy that there was probably 3 different traits I could have said, yeah, I could see a national eye saying he's probably the best in the league at this. I'm glad he's getting the recognition.
All right, there's a pass rusher on here. Which one do you got for the Cowboys?
Mozzie. No, it's Micah Parsons. Wrong am I.
Micah Parsons shows up as the fastest closing speed to the quarterback. Do you disagree in any way, shape, or form with this?
No. Just because I feel like there's got to be a lot of research that goes into that. And hey, they've got the whole ESPN stats and info team to go ask that question to. And I think you saw it best, even though it was by design. We talked about in that Seahawks game, in that game that essentially, or that play rather, that essentially lost the Seahawks the game, where he went unblocked as they tried to dunk it over his head. And Micah kind of just rushed to Geno quick enough to where it forced the throw preemptively. That's one of those highlight plays that you can say, man, that didn't show up in the box score, but he is quick. He is so fast off the ball, and just the whole bag that he has that he can just kind of dive into against different kinds of blocks and different patterns that he sees. It's incredible how quick he can get to the passer, even if he doesn't show up in the box score.
Yeah, anecdotally, I mean, you can think of the times where the quick quarterbacks, right, the fast ones, the ones that have some speed to them, you've seen Micah walk them down in a way, and that's the elite closing speed that he has. And I mean, that's the major skill that shows up that really scares offenses and offensive lines. It's just he's going to get there quickly, right? And obviously he's been able to find the way without being the biggest pass rusher, utilizing his skill, obviously knowing how to rip through, get around. But once he gets past that offensive lineman, oh buddy, you better be getting rid of the football because he'll be there quick, fast, and in a hurry. Those are the offensive ones. Those are the offensive players that read as the best at a skill in the NFL. Are there any players you feel like weren't represented that should have been represented here, or do you feel like that's on?
I mean, if you want to get real nitpicky, I could see like the offensive line.
Which I'm not sure. Did we get offensive linemen? Oh, we did get offensive line in here. And so, no, it does not seem like there were any Cowboys offensive line showing up.
I don't know what categories I would say some guys belong in, but I feel like Tyler Smith could fit in somewhere.
Just like strongest?
Yeah.
Just like strongest.
Honestly, you could just limit it to that because Tyron Smith is still completely demolished some of the guys he's lined up in front of. I don't know what metric I would use to say, but I feel like Tyler Smith, especially at the beginning of the year, he's kind of had a couple of meh games, but first maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season, he was playing at an all-pro level for my money. Yeah, I could go there. I could say Jake Ferguson might have earned some, just because the volume he's gotten has allowed you to see that, oh, this is more than just a guy that's a nice 1B or a nice second tight end. He's a true tight end 1. He's got a deep bag, too. He's got a few different things he can do. Again, I don't know what I would attach to him, per se, in terms of like a superlative, but I feel like he could deserve some love.
All right. Now we got the hecklers coming in. 940, Tyler Smith can be the most likely to hold.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, it's up there. It is up there. It's tough because, like, we're talking about individual skills, but, like, you think of someone like Zach Martin where you're like, how is he not represented? And I don't know that there's one thing in particular that you go, oh, Zach Martin's incredible at that. He's just good at all of it in a way, right? Like he's good at all of it, and it comes together to make a Hall of Fame level right guard. I almost call him left guard. And so, yeah, those are the things that seem to come together in some of those situations. Now, there's one more player here, neither on offense, nor actually, no. Did I give you the defensive player? I gave you Micah.
You did not.
I didn't give you this other one. There's another defensive player here in the secondary.
Well, that's easy. It's DaRon Bland.
DaRon Bland is the player that shows up here as the top ball hawk. And this makes sense.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Which is incredible, though, because, like, if there was a player that you would think would contend for that spot, it's another player on his team who just isn't playing right now.
Yeah.
And Trayvon Diggs. Now, let's do this thing that these people on the list did not have to do. Between DaRon Bland and Trayvon Diggs, if I had to make you take this pick. Yeah. Grown all you want. I'm going to need the answer. Trayvon Diggs or DaRon Bland as the top ball hawk in the league?
I think just because we've seen the body of work enough, I would go Trayvon Diggs, but it would not shock me if it ended up being DaRon Bland just because of the amount that opposing offenses have picked on him and paid for it. They just continue to do it. And look, Seattle had great success for the most part until the end of the game, picking on him. There's a reason they pick on him, but still, you know that no matter how many times you try to test him, eventually he's going to catch on to something, and he's going to catch on to the football specifically. So I think Al Harris has done a stupid, wonderful job in developing these corners. So it would not have shocked me if it was Bland, but I still think it's Trayvon Diggs.
You heard it here first. Alec Medford thinks that DaRon Bland is way better than Trayvon Diggs. You heard that. That's what I heard.
Did you hear that, Ross? Opposite of what I said.
I think we just found a name for this hour by
That
hour.
is literally
That's
not what I
crazy.
said.
That's wild. I
man.
personally am still very respectful of Trayvon Diggs, but
What are we doing here?
messing with you. And we're also finishing out this where your Cowboys rank as the top skills havers in the NFL. There's one more player that shows up as having a best in the league skill on this roster. Can you possibly guess who this player is?
We've already named Micah.
Yep.
Duran.
That's true.
It's got to be the kicker.
It is the kicker, Brandon Aubrey.
Let's go!
With best kicking accuracy, and I agree with this wholeheartedly. And the reason why I agree with this is not simply that he's 31 for 31. It's like the quality of the kicks. If you watch the kicks, it looks like, you know how in Madden, right? Like when they draw, when the kicking meter, it looks like they drew a line down the middle of the uprights, and that kicking meter is spot on there every single time. Because he has an uncanny ability of splitting those uprights every single damn time. And I don't know exactly how he does it, but he keeps doing it. And it's kind of incredible because randomly today I was on 105 Through the Fans YouTube page, went back a while and was listening to Bobby talk during training camp. I was asking him and I was like, look, man, who do you think is the kicker on this team, or how's the kicking competition gone? And at that time, Bobby reasonably said, as most of us thought, he didn't think the kicker was on the roster. Fast forward to right now, going into week 16 in the league, Brandon Aubrey looks like there was no other option available that could have been better than him. Quite literally the most accurate kicker in the league right now. So it's kind of incredible the way that he's been playing.
I think my favorite thing on Brandon Aubrey is that last week I was talking to Broadus, and he said, I think I made a joke about Butter Aubrey or something. He's like, man, when we were out there in Oxnard, I can't tell you how many times they were set up about 15 yards away from the goalpost that he was kicking into. So I can't tell you how many times we had a ball almost hit us during practice. Like, that's how bad these guys were in camp. And now he is just automatic. Something about just eliminating the competition and saying, you're that guy, worked. And it's great. I love the kicker, man. It's great to have faith in your kicker nowadays. Very happy with that. And that is a fun piece put out by Matt Bowen on ESPN.
There's how many of that was that? 6 different players for your Cowboys?
So you still got like 95
That's
other
right.
topics.
95 different skills that some other NFL player is the best at. But the Cowboys are well represented there.
You're welcome for not pulling a Bobby Belt and reading every single topic, because that is something he would have done. Coming up next on the Get Right, we got the Mavs and Clippers still underway. We will get you up to date on that game and why the score is what it is. And plus, what does the unclear timetable mean for this superstar about the Mavs? Coming up next on the Get Right.
The more you listen, the harder we grind.
because it is fantastic. And it's from a new medium that I'm excited to talk about. But
is it Bitcoin?
Man, I wish I had the courage, and 2, the funds to be able to mess up in that space. Because I don't have either. I've seen a lot of people. I have some friends that got into that space, and yeah, they're not doing too great. So shout out to you guys that your wallet's worth about $5. Yeah, Coinbase. Mine is worth about maybe $2.
Oh, you have a digital wallet?
Yeah, because shout out to my dad. You know, he got bored during the pandemic, and he said, hey, you should invest in this, and this. And I did, and yeah, it's worth about maybe $2-3, literally. I'm not saying that as a shortening of $1,000 or $100. No, it's literally like $2 or $3 US. It's great. So if you ever get a hold of it, you're not going to be very happy.
You can maybe get something out of the machine for that.
Yeah, I could get a Pop-Tart.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great. Or, we had that sticky note war about the Cheez-Its. Maybe I could get a bag of Cheez-Its and then complain about it not falling out. And then everybody's going to be like, why did you get Cheez-Its? And we're going to start another sticky note war.
I love that you talked about a sticky note war this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
You didn't see that?
No, I don't buy nothing from the machine. Are you crazy?
You walk by it though. There was like 5 pink sticky notes on the glass where it started by someone saying, this number isn't dispensing. It was the Cheez-It spot. And then someone said, okay, that's your fault. Why are you getting Cheez-Its? And there was like 5 sticky notes of, are Cheez-Its worth it out of vending machine?
And so you're asking me why I didn't read that?
Yeah, because it was funny. Like we are grown adults arguing via sticky note.
No. Y'all are grown adults.
I didn't contribute to it. I just watched. I'm a bystander. Innocent bystander. And I fueled it because
I feel like
talked
that's
about
worse. You're a grown adult that was watching an argument happen via sticky note?
Yeah, because I sometimes do actually use the vending machine, not nearly as much as I used to, but...
You realize that sticker shock was nasty, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They are taxing. So let's go ahead and talk about the Mavs before we continue talking about vending machines.
I don't know, I feel like the people enjoy the vending machine talk. It happens.
Vending machines are dumb, like if we're being honest, because there's
just the concept of a vending machine?
No, the concept is great. Society has ruined it.
Why do you hate vending machines?
Society has ruined it.
He hates Trayvon Diggs and vending machines.
And vending machines. Come on, Alex.
Hey, man. And I can never find
anti-snack.
I can never find a convenient vending machine that actually funds and provides what I want. Like anytime I see a vending machine at a mall or something now, like I went to a sports bar and I saw a vending machine and I was like, oh cool, what is this? I rounded the corner to get around to it. It was a vape vending machine.
Yeah, because why would the sports bar have if they have food? They should.
No, I didn't want it to have food. I thought it would be something cooler than some really crappy vapes. Like the gas station quality ones. I don't vape, so it did not intrigue me at all. But I was like, y'all could have done better. And it's like, who's going to spend $50 at a vending machine? I've never done that. I have spent $30 at a vending machine because
that's not that much better.
It was at the House of Blues and they had merchandise for the concert in it.
Oh, in a vending. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so you could kind of skip the line. There was 2 people in line for the vending machine. The table had like 50. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the vending machine. I have a card. I'm just going to swipe the card, get my hat, and leave.
Actually, it's pretty... Well, yeah, I feel like that's smart, going to the merch table.
Yeah, and it was a GA concert, where it was like standing room.
Graduate assistant, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm big time now. So, yeah, I was trying to get to the barricade, got real close, but, of course, a dude that was 6'5" had to stand in front of me.
That's right. So some various dudes that are 6'5" and taller playing at the American Airlines Center tonight.
That's a segue, ladies and gentlemen.
I do it from time to time. Your Mavericks trying to scrap back into this versus the Los Angeles Clippers. The score currently 90-83 in favor of the visiting Clippers. Your Mavericks have made a pretty good run to get back into this thing. Honestly, kind of led by Derek Jones Jr. and Tim Hardaway really piling in to bring this thing a little bit closer. But yeah, you've had the support of those other guys really show up, and they've done a good job playing some defense here against the Clippers, not allowing them to go off, as they are having decent numbers, 52% from the field, 33% from 3. But your Mavericks really just kind of locking down, trying to get back into this one, and the help is coming from Tim Hardaway Jr. And Derek Jones Jr., who are supporting Luka Doncic in his scoring efforts.
Yeah, and one thing that I was seeing, just kind of watching the game and then kind of cycling through Twitter and whatnot, just trying to gauge the feel for people that are more intently watching this game. And it seemed like the gap started to close and the opposing offense started to slow down a little bit when the Mavs went smaller. Like, I know people hate to hear it, but when Dwight Powell came into the game, that's when you started to see at least the pace of the Mavericks speed up a little bit. And at one point, Luka was the biggest player on the floor for the Mavs. And that's when you saw the scoring kind of slow down for the Clippers because the Mavs were able to pick up pace a little bit and play with a little bit of energy.
And the Clippers aren't a particularly big team either. And so I think that probably helped them in matching up a little bit. But yes, Mavericks doing their damnedest to try to get back into this one and hopefully win it. Both of these teams 16-10 coming in. But I think bigger than what's happening here. Well, maybe not bigger, right? The Mavs do need to get back to winning ways, and it'd be good to get a win against another team that's pretty good, and especially one that is right there with you in the standings. But a very, a concerning for me at least, tweet that I saw earlier today before the game from Grant Afseth, DallasBasketball.com. Really good Mavs coverage from him. Mm-hmm. He tweeted, Jason Kidd says there is, quote, no timetable, close quote, for Derek Lively II's return as he recovers from a left ankle sprain. And do I have to explain the reason why that's troubling? Would you like to take a swing at it, Medford, here?
Because he's been good, and he has been really promising at the 5, so I would like to have him on the floor.
And beyond that, like, he has been pretty much he has toted your defensive capabilities in his pocket by himself. Like, this team, whether or not they are better or worse at defense, has seemed to be to go in lockstep with whether or not Derek Lively is on the floor. And so the idea that this team is going to be without Derek Lively for a time that amount of time rather that we are not certain of is a little concerning, because it's also a time where you're missing Maxi Kleber still, and someone asked Grant Afseth, if there's any news about Maxi Kleber. No news there. What about Kyrie? No new news on those injuries. Now, Kyrie is like dealing with a foot contusion, which seems like it would not be as long of a thing. However, he's missed quite a few games, and he's a dude who misses games sometimes in his history. And then Max Kleber has missed a lot of games in his history. Josh Green still out, and all these missing players together make it so that you're playing at a level where you're asking Luka to do a lot. And thankfully, the likes of like Dante Exum has stepped up. And, Tim Hardaway Jr. has been putting in, but it really is concerning if this young guy is not going to play because of his defensive acumen, and also because he's 19 years old and you need him to be a huge part of this team. And so part of the idea was that, well, he's going to come along as fast as he can so that he can be ready for playoff basketball. Well, this is all time that he's missing in trying to get towards that end game of being ready to play playoff basketball in his rookie season as a 19-year-old in this league. And so it really is unfortunate that he's missing this time, and we don't even know exactly when he'll come back.
Two things real quick from Landon Thomas, who covers the Mavs at 6'5 Lando on Twitter. If you want a silver lining here, Kyrie Irving and Derek Lively II are no longer in walking boots.
Okay,
tonight.
That's good. That is good.
That is a good progress update on them. And then Grant Afseth followed up with a picture of Derek Lively on the bench with no boot in sight. Second thing, a question.
Yes.
Since Derek Lively is 19, and we hope that he has a long future ahead of him and lots of great basketball to be played, due to the nature of him being a little bit smaller in terms of build and muscle, are you concerned about, and just the sheer size of them too, are you concerned about injuries going forward? Do you think this is going to be a regular thing where you see like the soft tissues and the ankles getting rolled up on underneath the rim?
Not like an outside of concern for me personally. I think he'll continue. They're going to try and work on building on that frame, obviously, but big guys in this league are going to have the possibility of foot injuries. It's just something that kind of comes with it, especially big guys that are like particularly mobile and agile. Think Kevin Durant, who's had that, that Jones fracture in his foot before. Those things are available and possible, but no, he seems like he's a fairly healthy player, at least. And again, he's 19, right? There's only so much projecting we can do this here. But this was a high ankle sprain. It doesn't feel like this is going to be something that's like continuous per se. That's kind of just one of those things that can happen in basketball, particularly when you have someone fall into you. And so this is not a place where I start thinking about him being perpetually injured. And even the Kyrie thing is not quite something that I think about in that way. However, he has missed time for various stretches throughout his career, and that's the only reason why I put it in that context. But on the court, your Dallas Mavericks have actually taken the lead. They finally overcome what at one point was close to 20 points of a deficit in this game.
Yeah.
They lead 95-94, 8 minutes to go, thereabouts in the game there.
And something interesting I saw to get to there maybe a minute or two ago was that something that we've seen a lot this season, and actually last I checked, double as many times as the next guy in Cade Cunningham, is Luka Doncic getting blitzed whenever he rolls to the paint. And they're using Dante Exum a lot to screen for Luka in that situation, and he's drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line. And it's nice to see an aggression towards the paint that we haven't really been accustomed to outside of a Luka Doncic, and getting that supporting guy that can force a trip to the foul stripe. It's really nice to see that we're getting to the stripe and we're making those shots. It's the little things that I'm liking from the Mavericks.
That's not even little. I think that's huge. Rim pressure is a huge necessity in this league. And I mean, it's because, and I've said this a ton, I'm sure people that listen in this time slot on the Fan are probably sick of hearing me say it, is that it's the most efficient shot in basketball is the layup, is right up there at the rim. And the Mavericks, their diet of shots did not include a high amount of getting there, unless you're talking about Luka Doncic in particular and Kyrie Irving somewhat. And so having Dante Exum also add into that is nice. It's one of those things where even acquiring Kyrie Irving, there were still thoughts that you probably need another ball handler. Dante Exum, especially with the ways that he's knocked down shots and the ways that he's kind of put the ball on the floor, he's looking like he's feeling comfortable, or you probably as a Mavs fan should feel comfortable with him kind of existing in that spot as a third ball handler for you.
We have a timeout on the court with just under 7.5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. The Mavs up by 198-97 at the AAC. We will keep you updated on that game as it goes final throughout the rest of the show. And coming up next on the Get Right, it's sharing time on the Fan.
Oh, this cold.
Honey.
Honey?
Honey.
Find new roads, relax, and enjoy the difference.
Back here on the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan, the Mavs are up by one still, 105-104, with just under 5 minutes remaining in this game. We will keep you up to date on all the action coming out of the Double AC here tonight. Alec Medford and Reginald Adatula with you. We will reset your headlines coming up on the other side, where everybody loves to talk about Bally Sports. We got an update on that and how it affects one certain team here in the Metroplex that we will talk about in about 16 minutes or so. But right now, it is sharing time. And Reg, would you like to start, or do you want me to take over?
I have something, but you know what? I'm more interested in what you kind of teased. And so if you don't mind,
okay,
I'll hand it off to you.
So I made what I think is probably the smartest and one of the best purchases I've made in a really long time. Here, I want to say 4 or 5 days ago, I caved in. How did I cave in? I've been seeing all kinds of ads and promotions.
Wait, hold on. Can I press pause?
Yes.
Are you currently using this purchase?
No.
Okay, never mind. Continue.
I was using it before I came up here when I was doing research for the show and whatnot.
Okay.
I kept on getting ads and stuff on TikTok for...
Oh, you got.
For TikTok Shop and how they have all the crazy deals and stuff on there. And I was avoiding it because I just didn't get it. Like, I didn't know anything about it. And then I was watching Monday Night Football with my buddy Anthony, and he's like, I did all my Christmas shopping on TikTok Shop just because the shipping has been fast.
The damn youths, man.
And
why are you looking like that, Ross? Is there something that you need to say?
No, I'm just trying to listen in.
I kept seeing an ad, and I think it was literally because, you know, they know what you're searching on the internet. These apps and stuff know.
The algorithm.
The algorithm knows. And I was looking because my dad was like, hey, what are some things you need for Christmas or whatever? And I was like, you know what? I kind of need a new chair for my desk at home where I record my podcast, which you can get wherever you find your podcast, AM on the FM. I do, well, not anymore, but I did all my homework in. I play video games in. I had this chair that was just kind of old and clunky. Wasn't really feeling it anymore.
Like these ones that we have in here right now?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, very good.
It was just very flat. You know, it used to be nice and cushy at one point, but now it's just kind of a chair that works. And I was like, I want something that's a little more helpful on the back because I do have scoliosis. So
ergonomic.
Yeah, very ergonomic. And I kept getting this ad for this perfect chair. That it was like a nice stand-up chair that was low profile, has a headrest that's adjustable and or removable if you just don't want it. It's got the lumbar pillow that's removable. And the best thing, the two things, it reclines. So it goes back, I'd say like 45-degree angle.
Okay, very nice.
So you can get that nice lean. And then it has underneath it a telescoping footrest that you can just pull out from under the seat, and you flip this little cushion and you can kick your feet up. And it is perfect. I was like, I want that. That is awesome, but it's probably like $300, right? Pulled it up on TikTok Shop. It was like $140, but it was on sale for $110. And then this dude posted a video where he was advertising for it, so he had his own promo code. I got it down to $60 free shipping.
Okay.
And it told me, I ordered this 4 or 5 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
It told me, okay, it'll be there between December 27th and December 30th. It came today.
Okay, very nice.
I did not expect that. I checked my email after I had my cup of coffee, and I was like, okay, a bunch of useless stuff. And then it's FedEx. It says, your order is out for delivery.
I love that so much. You know what I realized? I think being in the DFW Metroplex actually helps things get here faster, like on shipping, because this is like one of those hubs.
Yeah, it really is.
So like, you know, when they kind of quote shipping, it's just like, this is about what we think. But like, that's if they have to go through a hub and then get to another place and then get to another place and it's like, hey, you get it to Dallas-Fort Worth and it's basically there.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's out for shipping, or it's out for delivery. And so I found that when I order things, I usually get them a few days, a couple business days faster than what they quote, just off of being in the DFW.
And what makes it more impressive is this package came from China. And it only took 4 or 5 days to get here.
Well, maybe they had them store, like they have like a store of them here already, because they know who they're selling to.
The shipping label and the FedEx did show that it came from China.
Really?
Like,
okay.
When I pull up the updates, it had its destination scan in China or whatever, and it made it over here.
Interesting.
It stopped somewhere along the way. I don't remember what state it stopped in, but it went straight to Texas after that. It did not make any other stops. And in the course of 4 or 5 days, it made it to my doorstep. And that chair is fantastic.
Wonderful.
I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a lot better than the other one is just a regular, it's like a cheap gaming chair I got from Staples. And it
in your face, Staples.
Yeah, and
I thought we were gonna advertise for you. Nope.
I paid $100 for that chair. I don't know. It's $9.49. I'm just gonna kind of vamp. I'm yapping. Yapping is another great word that I've added to the diction lately.
Okay, all right.
Just because I feel like I've been in a lot of yapping situations. But yeah, I put it together. The instructions were simple, easy, came with all the tools you needed. Put it together in about 15 minutes. And that thing is lovely.
Excellent. I'm glad that you can sit comfortably in your house now.
And you know the beautiful part?
What's the beautiful part?
It is eligible for commission. So I recorded myself putting it together and trying it out. I'm going to make it into a TikTok, and I can make revenue off of that.
Wait, so you're telling me that this is a multi-level marketing scheme chair?
Yep. It's a pyramid scheme chair. Yeah. So I could get paid for that video.
2023 hurts my brain sometimes.
I know. I'm hurting too.
I didn't know it was a thing.
That's wow.
Okay. I didn't know it was a thing, but when I ordered it, it told me.
Basically you did this whole segment so that you could tell listeners to check your TikTok so you can.
No, because
I see it. You see what it is. What's happening here, right?
I didn't want to promote it because I suck at editing video, so I don't know how long it's going to take me to put that video together. So
See, you said that's not what you're doing for the 214. They already said send the link for the chair. So
I will send you the link.
All right.
To my TikTok. And then you can use my link to buy
It's probably
the chair.
AM on the FM, if I'm guessing. That's the name.
I think it's Alec on the radio.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, like my socials. I think all my socials are that, and then my other entities are AM.
Follow the man. FM. Twitter.
Yes, please.
Instagram.
I like
apparently
followers.
TikTok as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna start posting more. I'm not gonna just try to make money off of TikTok. I'm gonna try to actually post content. Like I've recorded my whole day leading up to this, so I was gonna do like a day in a life thing because I saw this dude named Carl Jimenez. He was a USC broadcasting student.
Okay.
And he went nuts on TikTok just for posting his day in life of getting ready to call a USC football game. And now, same age as me, he's the voice of the LA Clippers. He's calling this game.
That's right.
Right now on the radio out there and for whatever station in LA. It's incredible.
Very good.
I'm like, hey, if people like watching me yap for, like 60 seconds on TikTok.
Well, people listen to you yap right here on 105 through the fan.
It's a beautiful thing, ain't it, Reggie?
Right.
It's a beautiful thing.
My sharing time actually comes from the Washington Post, which is kind of different than TikTok.
Very different.
I think they have a TikTok. I would just never get on it because I don't have a TikTok. However, there's an interesting piece that they put out today about how tackle football is actually declining. Obviously, like there's kind of change in the demographics and stuff, but apparently there's been a decline in participation in football, particularly in high school football.
Huh.
So obviously football is still the most popular boys high school sport in the country, and that's by a wide margin. However, participation has fallen 17% since 2006, and that's a larger decline than any other top 10 most popular boys sport. And so I found that to be kind of interesting when you consider, especially the ways that, NFL is still big and football is still big, but it seems like, kids at a certain level in America are playing football less, and we're seeing demographics kind of change in it, where white boys, black boys are playing football at a slightly less rate, and we're actually seeing Latino boys playing more. And so it's kind of interesting seeing the ways in which demographics of football are changing, because this is the feeder of going in. And of course, 17% is a big decline, but it still represents a large portion of America. Like, this is not to say that football is going away, but football always has seemed undeniable and untouchable in this country. And I don't think that this means that football is coming to any kind of end, but it is interesting to see, like, maybe, just maybe, football could end up kind of like boxing. Like, there's a lot of sports, or baseball even, right? Baseball is still a very big sport, but it doesn't exist in the same place that it previously did in America's consciousness. And I guess in a way, and I'm taking this to a whole different place, but in a way, my mind is like, is it possible that we end up in this place where, the thing that seems insurmountable, like boxing at one point in America or baseball at one point in America, ends up being surpassed by something? And what could that something even be? Could it be like esports at some point is America's pastime, like football is now? I don't know. Just the thought that I got on by seeing a really interesting piece about college football, or rather high school football participation kind of declining. Now, of course, like they break this down by states as well. And I mean, Texas still has a very high percentage of participation per capita, which we all know, right? But no, I just found that to be interesting.
Kind of scares me.
What's scary about it for you?
I just love football so much, to the point where I hope it remains king. It's that level-headed to me, that simple. I do think it's great for other avenues, though. Like, just in general, I do think it's great that the youth is trying new things and trying to find something else to do with their lives. I feel like at some point in every kid's life, especially every little boy's life, is, sports is the be-all, end-all, or football specifically is the be-all, end-all. Like, I know for sure in middle school, I felt like, man, if I can't be a football player, I can't be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cross-country kids aren't cool. The track kids aren't cool. and guess what? That's what I ended up being still. But, it at some point it did feel like that. So maybe if we do get hey, like, esports is that thing now. Or, hey, baseball's big again. Or, hey, I don't know, bowling is taking up, all of the airtime on ESPN.
Yeah, I highly doubt it.
I know it's not, but
Okay.
I'm just again yapping. But if something different comes about, I'm open to it. I'm just, as a football fan, I'm like, dang, man, we had a good run.
Well, we're not that far down the road, right? Again, still the most popular, particularly in high school sports, by a long margin. Now, obviously, this gets very, very nuts and bolts in the way that they talk about this. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that you can see the ways in which household income and like kind of socioeconomic status can play into this, because really you look at it in the states that have the lowest of the median household incomes in 2022 are, by and large, the states with the highest participation per 1,000 per capita in their public high schools when it comes to participation. So yeah, it almost is starting to look in some ways like akin to boxing, right? Where it's like, this is the way out for some folks. It's like, hey, this is an opportunity to get to generational life-changing money in some ways. And so I just found that to be interesting.
That's sharing time here on the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan. And coming up next, as part of your headlines, we will tell you how the Mavs fell apart here late in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about that next here on 105.3 The Fan.
Welcoming new listeners to our clubhouse with open arms. DFWsecurity.com. It's time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
Final hour of the Get Right here on 105.3 The Fan. Appreciate you guys joining us here on a Wednesday evening. My name is Alec Medford, joined by Reginald Adatula.
Yep.
And Ross Lebensky is holding things down for you here on DFW Sports Station 105.3 The Fan, your favorite live and local content here in the evenings in the mighty Metroplex. The truckwreck.com text line is 877-881-1053. 877-881-1053 to get involved in the conversation here in our final hour, as well as live on Twitch and YouTube. Twitch.tv/Dallas Fancam, or just search 105.3 The Fan on YouTube. And let's get into some of your headlines, because we just had a game at the AAC Go Final. The Mavs blew it up in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and fall to the LA Clippers 120-111. And it was a game that was very back and forth, as at one point I believe they were down 20 earlier in the game.
Yep.
Late in the fourth quarter, they end up taking a 1-point lead, and they end up losing by 9.
Yeah, you saw in this game early on, Luka Doncic did not get involved in the scoring, was not going as well as you would like him to, but at a certain point, he turned it up in about the second quarter, started scoring well. And in the third quarter, what it felt like you saw was just a team that started scoring better. And also a very big, obvious, decision that was made in this game is that Jason Kidd decided to go small, right? Does not have a lot of bigs available to him anyways. They started Dwight Powell, obviously Derek Lively still missing time with that high ankle sprain. And so they went small. Luka Doncic, you mentioned Luka Doncic was the biggest player at various points during this game. And so they went 5 out and really tried to stress the Clippers defense and make them guard the entirety of the court. And it helped that you started getting shots knocked down by various players on this team, including Jaden Hardy. We had a good performance from Jaden Hardy in this one. 5 of 9 from 3, ended up putting him 15 points himself. Derrick Jones Jr. did pretty well as well, getting to the rack, 6 of 11 at the rim. And Tim Hardaway Jr. was doing some of that, piled in 21. Not super efficient, but he hit some shots when you needed him to. And so those were kind of the guys that helped knock down shots for a while. But what's funny is that this came down to clutch time, right? The Mavs were up by 1 point with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left in this game, right when you get into that clutch time area. And they just simply could not knock down shots and match with the Clippers down the stretch. And so the Clippers ultimately win this one. But one thing that continued to be true is you could see Luka Doncic, passing out of that trap. Everybody seems to default at some point. And for the Clippers, it was late in this game. They defaulted to the idea of, we've thrown different things at you, but when it comes down to it, we're going to just force the ball out of Luka Doncic's hand, make the right decision, and see if the other players around him can beat us. And for a while, that was kind of working. Ultimately, at the very end, it stopped working. And so the Clippers got the win.
Yeah, another very up and down night. I mean, you did get, looks like another triple-double from Luka Doncic, 28, 10, and 10. Outside of that, you did get some good contributions and some really big shots from Tim Hardaway Jr. But, man, another night for Grant Williams. In the defensive category, he put up 9 for you, but he was getting blown past on the fast break. You were seeing a lot of inefficiency there. Norman Powell gave the Clippers 21 off the bench. Kawhi Leonard gave them 30. It was just one of those games, for the Mavs, as they're still beat up. I don't really know what to take away from it, other than clutch time has kind of been something they've been good at this year for the most part. It's an area that I feel comfortable. Obviously, with a healthy team, I feel more comfortable with that. But it did feel like when you got halfway through that fourth quarter, okay, this team kind of has it figured out. They know how to close this one down. But like you say, it just came down to, look, if we've thrown different looks at you, we're going to go down to the fundamental idea of get the ball out of their best player's hand and see if the other guys can win it for them. And right now, just didn't have the right personnel to make that happen, didn't have the right luck, and didn't have some great performances to go along with it. So it was a tough loss, but at the same time, it's really hard for me to take and make assumptions about this team right now just because they are missing so many important pieces. We mentioned it earlier last hour that Jason Kidd told Grant Afseth earlier before the game that hey, there's no real timetable for Derek Lively's return. He is out of his walking boot, but no timetable on that. The foot contusion for Kyrie Irving, still no real update on that. Maxi Kleba, no real update on that front either. It's a whole lot of question marks right now, and that's kind of what my stance on this team is right now.
Well, I mean, hopefully we can get more information after this game as well. But hey, man, the Mavericks, they really got out there. I was actually somewhat impressed with the ways that they were able to claw back against the Clippers and kind of go back and forth with the Clippers for a period there. So, somewhat encouraging, and hopefully move on to the next. You'll be playing again on Friday, and hopefully sooner rather than later you can get Derek Lively back, but also Kyrie Irving back, right? When you talk about closing, he's also one of those guys that factors into being able to close basketball games, and so it was kind of tough not having him as well.
If you missed it earlier when we were talking a little bit about the Cowboys in the 8 o'clock hour, we did see on the injury report today Tyron Smith popped up with a back injury, but it doesn't sound like anything too serious. You know, he's not really practicing nowadays, so you hope that this is something that he can just kind of sit out and feel a little bit better. Zach Martin still has the thigh injury that he sustained in the loss to the Bills.
And I know you're alluding to it, but like Tyron, we usually see him on the injury report, not practice on a Wednesday as like kind of just a veteran day.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the injuries. This one didn't pop up as just rest. This one popped up as back. Not sure exactly what to make of that, especially, because we've seen other teams be a little, play a little fast and loose with the injury report, maybe not putting things in there. But, I mean, hopefully this ends up being just kind of like an advanced veteran rest day, and you see him get some practice as you head towards the game versus the Miami Dolphins.
Yep. So outside of that, a relatively healthy Cowboys team. We mentioned earlier that the Dolphins were missing their entire starting offensive line at practice today, and some other key playmakers like Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert taking the day off of practice as well. So on a Wednesday heading into a Sunday game, they need to start getting some guys popping back into practice as well. You want to talk about Bally Sports a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously we've been keeping you up to date with what's happening with Bally Sports as they carry many of your Dallas teams, the Mavs, the Rangers, the Stars, and including the Dallas Wings as well. Mm-hmm. Well, we got some news today as it regards the NHL, because we told you about how Bally or Diamond Sports, their parent company, has come to agreement with 11, I believe, of the 14 teams, baseball teams that they carry. The Rangers not one of those. So we're still waiting to see if they can come to an agreement there. And if they don't, if those the Rangers rights get returned to the MLB, well, that's not the same situation with the NHL. The NHL in 11 teams came to an agreement with Diamond Sports on the fees that they will receive for the remainder of the NHL season. And your Dallas Stars are included in that, which means if you're hoping for the Dallas Stars broadcast rights to somehow be removed from Bally Sports Network and that go elsewhere or find a different way to view your Stars locally, unfortunately, the Stars will remain carried by Bally Sports Southwest through the end of this season. And so this is all through Diamond Sports' negotiations of their bankruptcy situation, as they are trying to figure out with all the various broadcast rights that they have, how to continue to pay the rights fees that are, that they currently own in order to see them through this season. And then honestly, Diamond Sports is really trying to figure out what the viability is beyond 2024, because a lot of these deals they're agreeing upon are to be, done after the 2024 seasons.
Yeah, and this is a big deal in multiple ways, obviously, for the casual fan watching their team, but I don't think a lot of people realize how much this affects the operating statuses of these teams and the financial success of these teams, because, like, let's take the Texas Rangers, for example. It's believed that the number of dollars that they're owed in 2023 in total from Diamond Sports is $111 million. Like, this is a lot of money for some teams, and this is how a lot of these teams pay their payrolls. And that's why you're seeing reports from Ken Rosenthal saying the uncertainty of the future of these deals are preventing them from making splash plays in free agency. These RSNs are big for a lot of these teams. And when you consider that a payroll for, a contending team in baseball can easily surpass the $150 million margin now, whenever, 80% of that figure is alone covered in rights fees, teams are eager to get this figured out, and getting dumped on that deal might not be a good thing. It might be a good thing for you as a fan. You get to access that easier, but for the team, they're not getting that money anymore.
Especially because you return that rights to the team or to the league, and now the team or the league is working that deal, meaning you have to go and get your advertising, and I think that's a little less certain, right? You got to remember that all of the money that comes in, obviously they get money from tickets and, concessions and those things trickle in. But especially now in major American pro sports, a lot of the money, a lot of the revenue, in fact, I dare say a majority of the revenue comes in from television deals in the NFL with the major networks collectively as a league. And then in the NBA and baseball and hockey, some of that is with the major networks collectively as a league. And some of that is also with regional sports networks that carry the remainder of those games. And so not having that's money that that is coming in, that's agreed upon years and years into the future, that you can budget into your books. And now the uncertainty of something that you've already budgeted in not coming through, you can see how that would then change the way that you immediately jump into, or at least stop you from immediately jumping into contractual agreements that would guarantee that you need money. And so, it would be interesting if the Rangers if the Rangers rights do get removed from Bally Sports, because then that does, maybe speak to the way that the Rangers spend their money, right? And they've already agreed to a lot of money over the last couple of off seasons. And maybe that's why you haven't seen them be very aggressive thus far in baseball offseason.
Yeah, this storyline has been a lot more intriguing and kind of worrisome to me more than most people, just because for the short term.
Yeah, ultimately, even if it's like they don't get a deal done for this just right now and the rights return to MLB, there will be something that will get done, because Rangers fans want to watch this team, and ultimately money will come in. You just don't know exactly what that is and when that is, or if that's on another regional sports network that quickly, coalesces. And I think those are the things that make this it's the uncertainty of it is just generally, the case. And when you have a little uncertainty, it gives you a little bit of cautious, makes you a little cautious rather.
I will dumb down what I was just trying to say. I just want Jordan Montgomery back.
Okay.
That's
Sorry,
all
my bad.
Yeah,
I took that to a whole different place. My bad.
No, that's absolutely in the back of my mind. That's what I'm thinking. But
you're the surface. Me no care about revenue. Me care about Jordan Montgomery.
Seriously, I do, because that stuff intrigues me. But the surface level thought is, I just want them to start signing dudes.
Agreed.
Right now, because my team isn't exactly doing anything, and teams like the Dodgers are out here doing crazy stuff. I know that they've got a lot more assets and a lot more to work with.
And they were kind of saving. It was fairly evident that last year they were pocketing money and being careful in the way that they spent it, because they were going to come around. I thought it was just they were going to dump the whole bag on Shohei Ohtani, which they did, except Ohtani gave them a little bit of an out too by deferring a lot of that money. It seems like they're taking all that cash that they had saved up, and now they're knocking on the door of, apparently they're mulling an offer of Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So apparently they're just, the rich are going to get richer, right?
Yeah.
And so, now the Red Sox and the Giants are in the mix there for Yamamoto, the Japanese pitcher. But it would be a little frustrating. The Dodgers went and got Ohtani and Yamamoto because Ohtani decided to put that money down.
Jack Harris of the Los Angeles Times reporting that the team is believed to be considering a bid of $250 to $300 million for Yamamoto,
Jerks.
According to a person.
Thanks
with
for
knowledge.
nothing, Ohtani.
Yeah.
See, this is why I advocate to get all that money. Now, this is the thing. This is all within his right to defer that money, because that money will return to him. But this is why I kind of, and look, Dirk ends up being in the crosshairs here because he's one of those guys, especially locally. This is why, the idea of we're going to give this money back or allow, my team to navigate. That's great for your team, but that violates kind of the financial structure that's set up by all these leagues. And so when it's you, it's like, oh man, this is great. And then on the other end, it's like, oh no, this stinks. And right now for the Rangers, you're kind of in the this stinks category.
Man, I'm so sick of the Dodgers. I'm so sick of them.
Who
at
isn't?
This point.
The one thing that should give you solace is that even when they do this, it feels like of late, they'll go win 100 games and lose in the playoffs. So,
oh yeah, that's what I love about people love to, completely diss the MLB playoff format, which I do think it has its flaws. Absolutely, I hear that argument. But man, there is something that gives me joy of a team winning 108 games, and then in the first series they play,
it's the
4
hater
or 5
within you.
game exit.
It's the hater within you. That's
yes,
right.
I'm a certified hater. Remember, I've been saying this ever since I was producing this show, that I am just a hater at my core when it comes to this stuff, especially when it comes to sports. I hate prosperity sometimes. And if you want to win 108 games, cool. Can't wait to see a losing 6. That's going to be a wonderful feeling.
Well, let me tell you. Obviously, it'll be bad for them if they lose in 6 just in general. It'll be really bad for Dave Roberts, my boy. Get on your horse.
Oh,
they are coming for you if you do not get something done in the postseason. If they get you Ohtani and Yamamoto, and didn't they go get Tyler Glass now too, right? Like, if they get you all this and you still don't make this happen, buddy, you are going to be hoisted by your petard, as they say. It's not going to be good for you, my boy.
How much help do you need, Davey? Man, I can't wait to see what happens. Like, I just want to skip to the next offseason now just to see if it worked at all and to see how hot
It's
that
not how it
seed
works.
is.
162 of these things, we got to run through them. And
Yeah.
you want to run through all
Yeah.
162 because for that whole 162, plus a few more, Texas Rangers will still be the reigning World
Defending World
champions.
Series champions, man. It feels so good to say. And sometimes I still have to go back and look at the camera roll of the pictures of me at the parade and be
You're
like, oh, yeah,
welcome.
that happened. That absolutely
it did
happened.
happen. Don't forget, it did happen. You aren't dreaming. As,
You're not dreaming.
Eric Nadel said.
I was thinking of a caption for my Instagram post for my graduation pictures, and I thought about doing
That's such a modern thought. Oh, I guess it's not that modern because like
that modern.
there's people of my age, and I say that like I'm old. I'm not. I'm 31, right? Like I get it, but there's people that have that perspective too. I guess I'm just the old soul because I was just like, that is not something that I think too much about. In fact, I'm more likely to just like post a picture and not put no caption on it at all. Just like, here's the thing.
I thought about making the caption, quote, "It's over, Eric Nadel." That would have been great. I thought about doing that, but I didn't. If you want to know what I put, at Alec on the radio.
Look at him. The whole show today has just been him plugging his own
It's
stuff.
self-promotion. They gave me one show this week. I'm going to make the most of it.
Self-promotion. I guess I don't have to do that when my name's on the show. Humble
See?
brag.
Exactly.
No, but yeah, like it's just.
I'm not as cool as you.
It's just self-promotion, bashing, and then bashing vending machines and Trayvon Diggs. I don't know what your get down is today, but it's very weird.
And yapping.
And just lots of yapping.
And guess what? Coming up next, we're going to keep yapping because it's time for AM on the FM, where we got the question of the day and the greatest Goodwill find ever. Next on the Fan.
Blasting out 100,000 watts of FM sports talk power.
5-3?
There's no reason for that to be tied to your self-confidence, though.
Maybe. I don't know. You've had an agenda this show. You certainly have.
I really haven't.
Yeah.
It's just what you have to realize is, especially if you've heard me over the last, month or so, the role has changed, right? So, like, when I am having to run point, there's a lot more things for me to handle.
Yeah.
Now, if you think back before, when I had more room to roam, this is what I do.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. More room to instigate.
There you go.
877-881-1053 is the truckwreck.com text line. We are also live on Twitch and YouTube. Twitch.tv/DallasFanCam, or you can search 105 The Fan on YouTube to answer the question of the day, because it's time for AM on the FM.
What does this button do? Please, please, do not push the button. You have no idea what it...
Reality can be whatever I want. Don't you dare touch that dial.
Don't you dare do it. I've got a problem. That's an evergreen statement. But I fidget a lot, and these chairs have armrests, and I keep hitting the little dial that controls how much monitor we get in our ears. So, like, every 15 seconds, I just turn everything off just by swinging back and forth. And I think we just got knocked off the air or something. I'm like, no, I just turn down.
So there's
return.
a lot of people that don't understand the words that you just said.
Yeah.
I
was gonna go kind of clean it up.
Yeah, I was like, buddy, that sounded wild or just completely confusing. So there's a little knob near knee height underneath our desk here, our broadcast position, that controls our volume just to our individual headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, kind of not the best, engineering here, because it, again, knee height. And if you do swing your legs like Medford's seeming to do, swiveling back and forth in his chair, you might catch the knob and have it turn all the way to 0, at which point it sounds like the radio just went off like that. And so, yeah.
My natural instinct is to just like look up and be like, who did that? And I'm like, oh, wait, it's me.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry if you just hear me go silent. It's because I can't hear anything, because I don't know how to sit still. And I hate standing up whenever, like during the daytime, because I don't want to mess up Carter's fan cam stuff.
Yeah.
Where like my forehead gets chopped off on the shot or something. And then
these are all very much our problems. And everybody listening is like, what are you talking about?
Hey, it's my segment to yap. So I'm yapping.
Okay.
The question of the day.
Yap
Do you want to answer that?
Yap on the FM. Not really, but I will.
Ouch. Ross, the question of the day.
I apologize.
Yes.
The question of the day is, what is the best gift you have ever received as we are in the holiday season? I think I just have one more show before Christmas, so I'm getting my Christmas holiday season questions out of the way.
It doesn't feel like Christmas is, 5 days away?
It really does not. And I don't know if it's the placement of the holiday this year, where it's just outside of the weekend and right at the beginning of a new week.
Is there a best day for Christmas, like day of the week?
I think Sunday, because of the religious context of it, but Saturday is perfect for me.
877-881-1053. What do you believe is the best day of the week for
Double
Christmas?
question of the day. Look at that.
Does it fall on a Monday this year?
Yeah, it's a Monday.
Yeah, it's next
I was
Monday.
about to say the natural inclination for me is to be like, like the very beginning or the end of a week. So like, obviously doesn't apply to us, but
No.
But
what you won't, and of course, yes, I understand what you're saying when you said it doesn't apply to us, because radio still goes. Although Christmas, you will not be hearing me, at least. I don't know about y'all.
Nope.
But, you usually get Christmas Eve off. So, like, Monday's a bad day because we losing a day that you could get off work, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's got to be, like, at least a Tuesday so you can still get those 2 days off and get that full 4-day weekend, right? Right? Like, Tuesday feels like the right day, right? And, of course, this is my brain as somebody who's trying to minimize the amount of work I have to do. Of course. But, like, That's got to be it, right?
I wouldn't know what you're talking about because 2 letters, PT.
Shout out to the 214 who says Friday to get Thursday off too. You in the same vein as me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, see, that's where being full-time would be nice.
What, physical therapy? Is that what you mean? When
Yes,
you say
physical
PT?
therapy.
Yeah.
Shout out to my dad who's having to undergo all that because he just got like a bunch of stuff done to his shoulder.
Cosmetic?
Yes. Yeah. It's very pretty now. No, he tore his rotator cuff. He had a slap tear in his bicep, basically the tendon that connects the bicep to the shoulder. And I think he had a labrum injury as well. He had like the triple crown of shoulder issues.
Was he throw like 95? What's happening?
He throws. Yeah, he's all slinged up and medicated. So been having to.
That has nothing to do with the injury, dear listener.
Yeah, nothing to do with it.
The medication is recreational.
Yes, it's very. that's just evil putting that out there. But
as you can tell, I'm having a good time tonight.
Yeah, you're having a great time. From the 945, the greatest gift they've ever gotten: a Texas Rangers World Series T-shirt.
That just happened for Christmas now. Like they already gave that to you.
Yeah.
I guess in that instance, if you're getting it for Christmas, it's like, look, this is the prime time to wear it, so we're just gonna give you your gift early.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I think that's fair.
You can have this now.
What's the greatest gift you've ever gotten, Reggie?
This is tough because I don't catalog these things in my brain, and I'm also terrible at remembering things. And so I guarantee you, here in about 2-3 hours, maybe tomorrow, I'll send you a text. It's like, actually, this is the real answer. But the thing that came to mind first has to have some validity, right? It's got to be, and I can't remember exactly what year, but it was definitely maybe like late 90s, early aughts, probably late 90s, when I got my Nintendo 64.
There you go.
Because like I did not have video games like that, right? Like I just didn't have it. And that was the time where my mom was like, all right, I'll get you the video game. And I remember I got the Nintendo 64 and I got Quarterback Club 99. So it had to be 99, right? And I got to play that game that had Brett Favre on the front of it. Not because it had Brett Favre on the front of it, and thank God, because, things have changed over time.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
But man, I loved playing that in Nintendo 64. I really did.
That resonates with me because I had a similar situation where, earlier years growing up, we didn't have all the video game consoles or all that stuff. And
yeah, you only had PS2s, man. What a tough time.
Kids these days.
Honestly, PS2 probably the greatest console ever created, but that's neither here nor there.
Absolutely true. And I actually grew up playing like on an Atari and stuff because I was playing all my dad's old stuff because the parents weren't buying the new stuff because we just didn't have the money at the time.
Like that, the Atari in there still work. Go play some Pong, boy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what the conversations were like. It was like, hey, it still works, don't it? Yeah, go play it. And then I remember finally, we just kept saying, we really want the Wii. We really want the Wii. Really want the Wii. That's all we want for Christmas. And Santa delivered the Wii. And 2 or 3 different games, and that's what we had. And we ran that thing until the wheels fell off.
That's right.
Where the fan inside sounded like a car trying to start up every time you hit the power button, and it literally stopped working on us.
Time to play Wii Sports.
That's exactly what it sounded atrocious, and we tried to fix it, and it finally gave out on us. Thankfully, in better situations now, but. Yeah, that was great.
Very nice. We got a lot of submissions coming in on the truckwreck.com text line, and I love this one, a sentimental one from the 832. Best gift was Final Four tickets last year for me and my dad to spend time together.
That's great.
Like, those are absolutely the ones that like hold a lot of value, and of course the Final Four is just like a really dope place to be. But yeah, it really ends up being like the sentimental value that I think holds, because like that's really what we're doing the gifts for. Because otherwise, wouldn't it be better to just give people money, right? Like. The idea of just like, hey, now I have to go through this process of finding a thing and spending money on it, not knowing particularly if you want it or will like it. Like there's got to be some sentimental value, or else this whole process of like gift giving is kind of stupid when you really think about it. Right? Like, let's just pass this $20 back and forth and like we'll be even, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. From the 214, nice luggage and a pair of Jordan 11s. Someone loves you. And Christmas on a Tuesday equals 4-day weekend.
That's right. That's right. So I feel like Tuesday and Friday feel like the ones because they're 4 days. Or, I mean, you might go with like a Wednesday where you get Tuesday off, you get Wednesday off, and then you just like take the next 2 days off, because by that time, especially if you have paid time off, you're just like, look, man, I definitely got hours that I need to get rid of anyways. Just take these off.
Swaggy Booties on the Twitch chat is preying on my downfall. Not going to read that. From the 972, a Nintendo 64. From the 214, Sega Genesis and Mortal Kombat toys. Yeah, some of the more sentimental stuff for me was always the younger stuff, but there's one that sticks out from high school. I remember it was a rough year for me. I want to say it was like freshman or sophomore year of high school. Like, dealt with some family stuff, and then I think that might have been the year I tore my ACL. And had to miss track season.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, so I was totally down in the dumps. And for my birthday, my dad got me front row seats to Friday Night SmackDown at the AAC live TV taping. And I still get on my For You page on TikTok clips from that episode every now and then. And you can see me and my dad just laughing hysterically at this one dumb bit that happened at the end of the show. I still see it. Young me, all of 5'3". I haven't grown that much since, but baby-faced, short hair, baseball cap. My dad sitting next to me. We're just laughing at AJ Styles hung up on the top rope, and John Cena's shaking the rope to cause some discomfort in a certain area because he's got his legs crossed on the top rope. And yeah, that clip still comes up on my Twitter feed, on my TikTok, and I can see me and my dad. And that was just like one of the best experiences ever, was me and my dad just hanging out, watching our wrestling, as you say, Reggie.
Yeah, that wrestle.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because I got the chair that we sat in. They let us take those home, the little commemorative chairs. We got like a water bottle that's still in my car that has like VIP experience on it, all the little goodie bag stuff. It was pretty cool. I love the sentimental stuff. 972, tickets to the last game at Texas Stadium. Cowboys lost to the Ravens, but it was an awesome experience. From the 214, no, my birthday is not around the holidays. It is quite the opposite. It is literally June 24th, so my half birthday, if you will, is Christmas Eve. So you flip the calendar around, and there you have my birthday, right in the middle of the summer, which sucked growing up. Because
did it?
Yes. Because
you weren't in school.
Yeah, I didn't get to miss school, and because of that, I wasn't surrounded by everyone, so I didn't get the happy birthday.
You want to miss school on your birthday? Nah, you the man. You the man in these streets when it's your birthday at school.
I wanted to get picked up early is what I wanted. That's what I want. I wanted to show up, get all the love, like you said, be the man for half a day, and then mom comes and picks me up and we go out to eat or something. Yeah, I want that.
Yeah, I didn't live that life. I was at school on my birthday.
Yeah, I was about to say, the best birthday gift I got when I was in school was my parents bringing me lunch, and that was like, whoa.
See, I just never even had the option because June 24th, right in the middle of nothing. Did get to watch the Olympics every now and then, though, every 4 years. That was fun. I tease the greatest Goodwill find ever. And Reggie already knows this. So, that's listeners, right. I found...
Because I'm on these internets, bro. You can't hit me with something I don't know. That's not true. You can hit me with something I don't know.
Someone bought a vase from Goodwill for $3.99 and flipped it for $107,000 at auction. One lucky thrifter in Virginia hit the literal jackpot when she purchased just a random vase at a Goodwill in Richmond, Virginia, and 6 months later, she took the prize Carlos Scarpa vase to auction and sold it for $107,000.
I feel like if it's a six-figure item, I feel like it's got to be a vase at that point, right? Like it's a vase.
I'm doing it a disservice. Yeah, so let's go with vase. She spoke with Elle Decor and told them how it all came about, saying, quote, "I saw that it was a solid piece of glass and that it was really heavy. It didn't feel cheap." She added, "I'm not a glass expert, but when I saw the Murano marking, I knew I wanted to buy it. When we got to the checkout, it was $3.99. I was prepared to pay $8 or $9 for it, so I was super excited for that price." And did her research and talked to some experts, and one billed it as, quote, "one of the rarest works of Italian glass."
That's dope. That makes me wonder, like, is she just someone who enjoys thrifting on like a casual level, or is she like one of those folks that feels like this is a job? Like, should she have been on what's the show that used to be on, what was it, E or whatever, or Discovery Channel, one of them, where they go into like various lockers?
Oh, Storage Wars.
Storage Wars. That one.
Yeah.
Like, is that what we're talking about here, where she's out here looking for the deal? Because she was like, I saw the marking on it and I knew this cost more. And I was like, this sounds like them folks on a TV show.
So this one, from this article, it looks like just a casual thrifter.
Huh. Well, good for her.
Like, thrifting is a hobby, but it's not a living. kind of thing. It's just one of those,
Right.
trendy gals that goes out there looking for a cool t-shirt or a bomber jacket to bring home. Or in this case, maybe something to add to the house. And for $399, that's a great return on investment for almost $110,000.
I mean, even if it wasn't a return on investment, like, hey, a nice heavy vase looks good. $4 ain't a bad price to pay for that. Put it in the crib.
There's really not a losing situation there in my eyes. So good on her for that. And one last thing here on AM on the FM. I didn't believe this after initially reading it, but did you know that one of the biggest online vendors in 2023 for gold bars was Costco?
I'm sorry, my brain doesn't work.
So
first of all, I didn't know that there were vendors for gold bars. So that really takes me out of this. But Costco moving gold?
Yeah, one of the biggest online vendors of gold bars in 2023 was Costco.
I'm so confused. Like, you can buy you buying these online. I guess everything is bought online now.
Yeah, so they kind of went after the Walmart model where you can kind of just buy anything and everything off their website through other vendors.
Everybody's trying to be Amazon, right? Everybody's trying to be an online marketplace.
Exactly.
Got it.
And Costco kind of took the chance in 2023 on, hey, gold is always expensive and always worth it. People always want it. And in the first quarter alone in 2023, the company sold more than $100 million worth of gold bars.
The question I have is less with Costco themselves. Who are these people going to Costco.com like, hey, you know what I'm trying to get? Some gold. No. Not like gold jewelry or nothing. Just a bar. Just a bar of it. To do what? To have.
And look, it's probably unlikely they're making a ton of profit on that when you consider the listed price of the bars tend to be pretty close to their actual value on the market. So they probably didn't make a ton off of it. But to put up $100 million worth of sales on that alone in a quarter at Costco?
And I guess, yes, swaggy booties, gold speculators would be buying these. I just like the idea that the gold speculators, like, while I get these gold bars, I'm going to get a 17,000 pack of Cheerios. You know what I mean?
You can literally buy like a roll of like wrapping paper that will last you 40 years while you're buying your gold bars.
That will also last you those same 40 years. So
exactly.
There you go.
And a lot of people speculating on the text line like, hey, it's probably not real gold. No, these are real gold bars just through vendors, like actual gold vendors that use Costco as an outlet to sell.
Because everybody know that Costco keeps the cost low.
The final call is next on the Get Right.
Coming up Thursday morning on Sean and Bobby, Babe Laufenberg and Patrick Walker preview the Dolphins.
Get right on 105.3 The Fan. Alec Medford and Reginald Adatula with you until the top of the hour. I want to thank Ross Lebinsky for his hard work tonight, as well as Kyle Yeomans, DallasCowboys.com, for joining us earlier at 8:20. If you missed that conversation, you can hit the rewind button on the Odyssey app or visit the 105 The Fan podcast page to check that out. But it is time for the final call here on the Get Right. And just a reminder, in case you missed it earlier, the Mavs blew it up in the fourth quarter against the LA Clippers, falling 120-111 in that matchup as they kept it close in the fourth quarter. At one point, had a 1-point lead. At one point, we're down by like 20 points.
22 is what I saw as I was looking back in the logs of things.
Yeah, 22-point deficit there in the first half. They overcome that, but can't hold on as the Clippers just kind of forced the ball out of Luka Doncic's hands late in the game. Nobody could make their shots in clutch time, and that was all she wrote.
I also went back and I was looking at kind of the shot chart of what was happening there. In the fourth quarter, the Los Angeles Clippers, 9 of 9 in the restricted area when they got down deep into the paint. Your Mavericks, 2 of 4 in that same area.
That'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, also there's other things contextually with it, but you let them get to the paint. That's what's been the problem for these Mavericks defensively. A lot is letting teams get right into the heart of the defense, and of course, they had to kind of go small. It was what they utilized to get themselves back into the game. But late in the game, when it's just real isolation situations or just we need a bucket right now, teams are going to be able to attack the middle of your paint. One of the reasons why I imagine most Mavs fans are somewhere looking and thinking, get well soon, Derek Lively.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As we found out from Grant Avseth earlier today, talking to Jason Kidd before the game, that there is no clear timetable for a return to action for Derek Lively with his ankle injury. And luckily, the good update on that is that he is out of his walking boot, as is Kyrie Irving. So hopefully a sign of good things to come on the injury front. Still no update on Maxi Kleba either. So still a really beat up squad, man. Still a really beat up squad. Did you have some sound you want to run?
Sure, we can. Is there one that you prefer to hear? So there's a couple of them pertaining to the NFL in various ways.
I love me some Mike McDaniel.
Okay, so this is interesting. Obviously, your Cowboys will be facing off against the Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel is the head coach of those Miami Dolphins. And last week they beat the New York Jets. Before that, they had a pretty unfortunate and unceremonious loss to the Tennessee Titans. And Mike McDaniel, one of the things about him, he seems to be like, I guess, the cool coach or whatever, but young guy that seems to really get his team on his side. And I imagine this helps. This was the speech that he gave to his team after that loss to Tennessee.
I know who's in this room and what we're going to make of it. You with me? So we're going to hit this, and if it's brutal, yeah, bring that, okay? Because we're trying to do something today that other people won't. Let's just look at it straight in the eyes. It's pretty simple. We lost the game up for 15 different reasons. And I have my hand fully in that, okay? Trash plan on my part. Against their zero, there's better than having to throw a fadeaway jumper, okay? Now, I've got a quarterback trying to overcompensate for me. I never see Tua miss any throws. I never have to coach him on throws, but the opportunities we had, whoa! And that's what's happening a lot, is overcompensating for your teammates. An elite player trying to take the game in his hands. A heavy turn to try to pick this dude off. Which I appreciate the intent, but let's learn from this. Understand that we can trust each other. That was probably the quarterback's best play. That happened. Okay? Don't worry about it. Just keep playing. Yeah, I called some trash plays. That will happen. Just like you'll have bad plays. You know what makes me a man? Is that I don't blink at that nor do I avoid it. I'm going to learn from that. You don't get mad. You don't get sad. That okay? We learn lessons. Okay? We're about to get ready for the Jets. Adios.
That's Mike McDaniel, courtesy of Hard Knocks. Obviously, they're on the in-season version of Hard Knocks this year. But yes, that's Mike McDaniel basically taking some accountability and trying to get his team back straight after they lost to Tennessee. What'd you hear there?
I just love the simple concept of, as you put it, accountability. You know, it starts from the top down. And if you're going to take a tough loss to a bad team like they did in the Tennessee Titans, there's going to be multiple reasons why. And the first thing he says is, look, I had a horrible plan. And he even identified it wasn't just a, hey, guys, it's on me. It was, hey, in that situation against their zero blitz, I called the wrong play. I attacked that the wrong way, and I'm sorry. You know, and I forced my quarterback to make the wrong play in that instance. It's just really intriguing to hear how those conversations go. And you mentioned it. Mike McDaniel's kind of like the social media honey of the NFL now, where everybody knows him as this really chill, laid-back, cool guy. And here
Except
he is.
Except for the 2-1-4. 2-1-4 really don't like him, apparently.
That's sad, because I love him. He's great. But, you know, he's racing the Sunday Night Football cameraman and stuff. We see all that. We don't get to see this, you know, very often, except for, you know, through Hard Knocks, which is pretty cool to see that, hey, he is an NFL coach at the end of the day. He's not just giving you good sound bites and good video content. Like, you put it best, Reg. He gets his guys behind him. That's the reason this Dolphins team, you know, has been able to become so talented and become, you know, one of the best offenses we've seen in a long time.
So that's it seems like they're going to play for their coach, and that's what the Cowboys have to look forward to. Now, we know the Cowboys will play for their coach too. So
yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall after a Cowboys loss, you know, to hear what McCarthy has to say just in comparison to that. You know, I'm not saying it would be anything better or worse. I just love to hear.
Know. Curiosity.
Yeah, I just want to know what that conversation is like after a San Francisco game or after a Cardinals loss, after this loss to the Buffalo Bills. I'd love to see how that goes. But we won't get to because they're not on Hard Knocks because they don't suck. So, or have at least a weird situation going on with a new coach or what have you. So that's going to do it for us here on the Get Right. Appreciate you guys joining us here. Full show tomorrow, Reg, 7 to 11. You can catch the boys then. Until then, my name's Alec. His name is Reg, and we're out of here.
Be easy. Peace.
Take your Turn It On, Leave It On fan experience everywhere you go with our Odyssey app. Proudly presented by Comerica.
There's no gift that's more beautiful, more versatile.